rise for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay.
They might follow it up.
Welcome, everybody. With the we start off with the employee of the month here for the month of May is John Flick, maintenance department, maintenance mechanic 1. He's in the Parks Department, and his he was recognized by his peers and his supervisor there, and I'll read what they wrote about him here. It says, job performance goes above and beyond. John has truly become a go-to guy when Steve Phillips is not around. In a very short period of time, he's become and exhibited duties of seasonal employee. I feel like I have 2 Steves now. His carpentry, plumbing, irrigation abilities are spot on, not to mention painting, staining, and finish work on new benches. He's also been a big help with the grounds crew. Basically, whatever I've needed him for, he's done. And the village and the Parks Department are very lucky to have him. Larry Wojcik, who's the supervisor. So thank you, John. Congratulations. And well done. We have public comment here. You have 3 minutes to address the board here. We got Phil Gay. Just come on up here, Phil, and just,
State your name and address.
My name is Phil Gay from Watermill. Yes. As some of you know, I own East End Clam Bakes here in Southampton. Over 50 years ago, as a young boy, my family would have beach picnics at Fowler's Beach several times a summer. They were great fun, and in 1981 I started a business here, catering these events at homes and beaches. It was a great success. Today there are many rules, permits, and laws that we all have to abide by. And in all the years of catering events in Southampton Village, not once has my company been found to violate any of the rules and laws in the village of Southampton. Driving on the beach between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. is a law in the town and village, no exceptions. 4 years ago, it was a Sunday in August, and some friends and I were enjoying the beach at the picnic area near Shinnecock Inlet. Trucks from a local catering company were driving back and forth east of the picnic area, setting up a party at a beach house from 2 p.m. until I left at 5 p.m. I saw Don Peremba in a police vehicle on the road and said people were upset that these vehicles from the catering company were driving on the beach, and he told me that the chief of police at the time told him, and I quote, "I was told to look the other way." Now, since that time, each summer, there are issues with catering trucks driving on the beach that are not supposed to. Last summer, a fine was given to 230 Elm at least once, and I heard also that Seasons was either fined or reprimanded about setting up parties before 6 p.m. with their trucks. Last summer, I was at a village beach parking lot with my truck, waiting for 6 p.m., only to see other catering trucks drive off the beach several times at 5 p.m. Another topic is the burning of pallets on the beach. It is illegal, and you're supposed to burn firewood only, yet last summer a company was fined for driving on the beach, and I believe also for preparing to burn pallets at a party. My company always burns firewood. It costs money which other companies do not want to spend. Now, I heard from village employees last summer that a company was fined $1,000. These homes on the beach are owned by some of the wealthiest people in the world. These catering companies that violate the laws have their clients pick up the tab, I am sure, whether the clients know it or not. My company seems to always get complaints from village residents when these violations occur. Not sure why, but my office always gets phone calls about the beach not being cleaned up or driving violations. Always, we are not even the company that catered the event. I'm not sure if it's favoritism or why these violations go with warnings and small fines, but it needs to stop. It has to be a level playing field. If a client wants to set up his beach party at 3 p.m. and have all the equipment brought down by truck and set up early, my company tells them not until 6 p.m. These calls other companies get, and then they get the job and just pay the fine. I'm almost done here. It is unfair, first of all, that there are separate laws and rules for different people. Second of all, owners of these beach homes have the right to be upset watching trucks go back and forth during hours when they are not supposed to be driving on the beach, or parties that are not cleaned up, tables and chairs being left to the next day so the beachgoers have to see the mess in the morning. My company gets blamed, and we always remove all equipment and party rentals the night of the event we cater so that the beach is clean and residents can enjoy it. The town trustees have recently been in the news, and the rights for the beaches are in question. It is not a time to give ammunition to homeowners on the beachfront who want to ban driving on the beach for all its residents. I think the solution is to make fines for driving on the beach 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for caterers $5,000. Second offense, do what the town does. Revoke the right for the company to ever cater an event, beach event, period. As far as the pallets go, fine them severely also, and that will stop. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that's, we have, no one else has signed up here. Anyone else would like to speak in public comment? Okay, so we're going to close public comment. We've got board presentations here. Robert Strada.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Epley. Do I have 3 minutes or 4?
No, your board presentation, so.
Thank you. Here's an original copy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, everybody has a copy of it.
I'd like to thank you all for having the courage of your convictions. It's that simple. You took a risk against a huge financial, possibly negative impact to say, this place matters, this is important, and we're going to do something about it. And while we may have provided the tools or the insight and the knowledge and the energy to do it, and Brenda certainly supplied the tenacity to keep it alive, the truth is what you're looking at in that report is a successful salvage of a very important historic building here in the village, and that's the Pierce Concert House. Pierce Concert, for those of you who don't know, was one of the first Americans to sail into Tokyo Harbor after having rescued some distressed Japanese seamen. The fact that he was African American, I think, just makes it even sweeter. Long before Admiral Dewey sailed into Tokyo Harbor with his battleships, Pierce Concert and his company were there first. So if you'll just indulge me, I'd like to just read a little bit from this report, not the entire report. But what you'll find here is that the decision that you took to rescue this building was the absolute right one, because it is indeed a historic building. The structural frame and the surviving architectural detail of the Pierce Concert homestead, formerly located at 51 Pond Lane here in the village, has been carefully investigated, labeled, disassembled, removed from its building site, and placed in temporary storage. The salvaged house frame appears to date from the early to mid, and a lot of it even older, 19th century, although many tried to make the argument that it was a 20th century building having no historic meaning. The concealed structural elements are of historical importance and link the house clearly to the life of the noted African-American Southampton resident Pierce Concert. Identification and salvage of significant architectural fabric makes it possible to reconstruct and restore the Pierce Concert homestead as a landmark having local and potential national significance. On that first page there, you'll actually see what was only the obvious hint of what was a historic building, and they are the eaves on the north side of the building. That's at the bottom of page 2, the first photograph. I'm just going to jump over what it was like before we began to deconstruct it, because the reality is, the first time we walked into the building, Mr. Mayor, I think you'll even remember that, we walked into a small room in the northeast corner of this 20th century house and observed 6-over-6 windows that had these panels below them. And these panels turned out to be late Greek Revival panels, circa 1850, and they were right in front of everyone's eyes. The closer investigation also revealed a surviving door casing leading from the room into the central room, which was probably the first part of the structure that was built. On the second story, when you went up the stairs, the room above that room actually exhibited something that appeared to be a chair rail running around the room. And in reality, it was an indication that there was a knee wall from a 19th century timber frame structure that it was concealing. So the reality is, as we began to uncover the materials, we began to see a 19th century frame. The knee walls proved to be a key architectural feature that survived from an earlier house of only 1.5 stories, a house that was more compact and one that clearly predated what was eventually later enlarged. But the real find started in the basement. And in the basement, what we noticed were the original floor joists in the first part of the house. They, as you can see in that photograph there, were not circular sawn. They were in fact reciprocally sawn, which is a process that predates circular sawing and in reality further identifies this not as the modern house that others were trying to convince village officials it was, but truly a 19th century house. The reality is that the center section also preserved hewn perimeter sills. By hewn, I mean made with an axe. You just don't see that in 20th century architecture anymore. So a summary of the structural evidence on this level is that the center, north, and back lean-to systems of floor joists and sills were historic and dated from the 19th century. And more importantly, they revealed an additive sequence of construction, with the center being the first and enlarged first to the north, that north room that had those panels, and then to the back. With compelling structural evidence supporting the hypothesis that a historic house frame survived within the enlarged and altered house at 51 Pond Lane, careful deconstruction by hand was commenced. Features such as those surviving knee walls of the second story revealed not only the massing of a 1.5-story house, but also its wall posts, studs, braces that were likely to survive as well. And similarly, despite the raised roof frame across the entire structure, definitely 20th century, the north end wall framing with its original pair of roof rafters was likely to remain embedded beneath the later wall covering, which it did. And those rafters, that's the original rafter pair and the only one surviving, showed us how the rafter system would follow. And that's how it can be replaced, reproduced. So despite the nearly total loss of interior architectural fabric, such as doors and windows and baseboards and casings, which were destroyed during the 20th century, the Pierce Concert Homestead survives as a structural frame, preserving wall posts, studs, braces, as well as interior floor joists and pair of rafters that serve as the prototype for restoring the roof. The 1.5-story house with corner posts rising above the second floor to create the front and back knee walls became the focus of the salvage work, which succeeded in identifying and removing a substantial amount of the original frame, which we have. One of the most challenging aspects of the project is envisioning the appearance of the original house and its historic additions. In fact, preliminary investigation and analysis suggest that the earliest section of the frame, the portion that corresponds to the large middle room of the house, was probably not a house. It was probably more like an accessory structure or a small barn. So it wasn't originally built as a house, it was built as a barn. The primary structural evidence for this is its lack of a heating system. There was no chimney. Despite a relatively intact system of floor joists on both the first and second story levels, no chimney appears to date from the original structure. This lack of a heating source, a defining feature fundamental to all domestic architecture, suggests that the building first served an alternative purpose and may have been an outbuilding within a village farm setting at first, which makes its location even more important. The surviving brick chimney appears to have been built later, at a later time, and after the earlier structure was enlarged and converted for use as a dwelling, in a period in which cast iron stoves were employed as supplementary heating sources. Now, if you look at that photograph on that page, photograph number 9, it shows you an original gun stock post. Again, classic 18th and 19th century architecture. But it's all charred. And that's because there was a fire in the building after the fireplace was installed. So with the addition of the rooms to the north, there's no question that the structure had become a dwelling as a result of this effort, and that the decorative window treatments so characteristic of the Greek Revival style were found. Makes sense. The floor joists that support the lean-to appear to date from the same period as those that support the north room. Thus, an expansion and conversion for residential use of an original accessory building or farm building at one time in the mid-19th century appears likely. And as part of that layering or additive process, we discovered, it was in front of all of our noses, this fascinating glimpse into the way some domestic architecture evolved and was adapted in the 19th century here on eastern Long Island, very much influenced by the English builders in the Massachusetts and Connecticut colonies. And the preservation and restoration of the Pierce Concert Homestead is enhanced by an understanding of how this structural frame and these finishes evolved to suit the owner's and his family's needs. So here's our recommendation. The Pierce Concert Homestead is an architectural resource of great historical significance to the village of Southampton. Its association with a person of importance, not only to the village history, but also to that of the town, the region, the nation as a whole, provides ample context for its reconstruction and restoration elsewhere in the village. It's recommended that a site be chosen that provides the best possible opportunity for creating both the house and the setting within which Pierce Concert left a lasting imprint on the village of Southampton, meaning somewhere near Lake Agawam. To provide lasting protection and recognition, it's recommended that the Pierce Concert Homestead be granted a landmark status. And I've already started this conversation with the people at the National Trust in Washington last November at their annual meeting in Savannah. They're well aware of this. Also thanks to Brenda's emphasis on talking with them as well. So the relevant criteria that would justify and fulfill that designation are village criteria numbers 1 and 2. And they are special character or historic aesthetic interest or value as part of a cultural, political, economic, or social history of the locality and identified with a historic personage. So landmark designation of the Pierce Concert Homestead would signify a broad understanding of the important role that African Americans have played in the development of the village of Southampton. Thank you very much.
Robert, yeah, I mean, this is a great report, and thank you for the work that you've done on this and your support and what we've tried to accomplish. And we've, we talked about if we were to rebuild this, what would it look like from a dimension standpoint so people have an understanding?
It would be very small, not very small, but it would be much smaller than what people remember it. Keep in mind that it would probably be something around 18 feet by 30 feet in total, and that it would be 1.5 stories high. And all of the framing that went into that original house exists and can be reused, repaired and reused if necessary. The end pair of roof rafters would become templates, and they would be used to make all of the roof rafters. The spacing of the rafters is already revealed to us in these notches in what was the chair rail, which was actually the roof plate. So we know exactly where they went. They didn't go 16 inches on center, and we're told we can see where they go. But the floor joists, the flooring, I mean, all of that's there.
We were able to salvage that and
Yes.
have it in storage and,
Yes, it's
Yeah.
right here in the village.
well, it's a secret. Can't
I
tell
just said
anybody.
it's in the village.
Okay, so,
My lips are sealed.
Do we have a sketch or an idea of what the original may have looked like?
I'm sorry that I didn't include one in this, but we are indeed still pondering that. We're involved in a lot of historic restoration and preservation work. The reality is that this is a gem of a structure, and the fact that you all went out on the limb to say you can't just knock it down says a lot to this community.
yeah, well, we're hoping that we can, now that we have it, decide where it's gonna be placed at, and there's a few different locations that we're looking at. We're just kind of waiting on one thing to either happen or not happen, and then and we'll go from there, so.
It's quite safe where it is, as you know. I mean, and these timbers, they've lasted a long time. They're not likely anytime soon to be unusable.
So what I'd like, and, to the board, we'd like to know what the cost would be. If you have, in the next month or two, work up some rough numbers for us, and so that way we know kind of where we're at and what we need to do, and either raise the money or find it within the village and try to restore this.
Well, we'd be happy to help you raise the money.
Okay.
The reality is that it's essential that this be resurrected.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of other people who feel that way.
Great.
And not just in this village,
Yeah,
which
I
is
know.
great.
So.
But I will be happy to
Okay.
put something together so at least you have an idea
Okay.
of what the process would be, how long it would take,
Okay.
and what it might cost.
That would be great. Okay.
My pleasure. Thank you again.
Any other questions for Robert? I'm going to get out of here fairly.
I am, because you've got a house full.
I know. So, see, they all showed up to see your presentation, so.
Thank you all.
Okay, Robert, I appreciate all the work that you've done for us and
But-
stuff, not only here, but the Historical Museum and other places, so.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
job.
Mayor.
Thanks.
But thank you for allowing this to happen.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Another second presentation. Jay, you're going to come up here for Bruce. Got camera shy. Bruce did. So, just to preface this, we been looking at our zoning, and I know that Jay's represented Southampton Association, and we've had several meetings here, and I know you met with the planning board, have been participating with the planning board over some of the recommendations here. So, we had a very nice meeting today, and felt it was important for you guys to come and talk about some of your ideas and concepts, and allow us to start moving forward with some of this stuff. So,
Right.
yeah, thanks,
Jay
Jay.
Deasing, and President of the Southampton Association. I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak on this issue. Obviously, the Pyrrhus Concert House is hugely historical structure in the village, and wonderful to hear about that. But in our zoning too, I think we're also seeing a lot of changes as the zoning is permitting many houses in many neighborhoods to be torn down and replaced by much larger structures. That really is changing the social fabric, the look of our village, the feel of our village. So we appreciate the opportunity that the Planning Commission has given to the public to consider these concerns. And we came up with a game plan of 6 adjustments that we thought we could make to the zoning code without making a major change that would certainly, we hope, address some of the issues, do it quickly, and allow us down the road to review it again if we feel that it needs further tweaking. And it mainly impacts the smaller zones. So our first recommendation would be to reduce the height of houses in the smaller zones. Less than a half acre, the maximum height would be 30 feet. Between a half and less than a full acre, a maximum height of 33 feet. And over an acre, it would remain at 35 feet. These are still higher than in most of our neighboring communities. It's higher than the town of village of East Hampton, and of course, you know, in the town, 32 feet is the maximum height. So we think that reduction would certainly help in the smaller parcel zones. The second idea would be to reduce the maximum lot coverage. We currently allow 14% of the lot size plus 1,500 square feet, and we would just scale that back by 250 square feet, so that if someone wants to build a big house on their lot, they certainly can, but that we don't end up with lots that get maxed out with a very large main house plus a garage plus a pool house and a pool. And on a third of an acre, I think that's what we're seeing in a lot of neighborhoods. It's reducing the open space. It's really changing the look and the demographics, because then, of course, these houses are really only going to be available probably for a weekender with a fairly hefty budget. We also wanted to reduce the gross floor area. Again, a very small reduction from 12% of lot size plus 1,400 square feet. It's currently 1,500 square feet. So again, just scaling it back. The comment that we're hearing from a lot of neighbors in various sections of the village is, you know, can we dial it back just a little bit, see what happens? And so that's what we wanted to do. We also thought adjusting the pyramid regulation to be a 45-degree angle pyramid calculated from the base flood elevation or natural grade. We currently do the pyramid from 5 feet above that. And again, this would help to ensure that structures are centered on the property, but also that you're not looming over neighbors. And this would really only have a major impact, again, in the smaller zones. I think parking is something that everybody has noticed in all the neighborhoods, and we're seeing more on-street parking. And so we'd like to adopt the Suffolk County definition of a bedroom so that we make sure that we're providing sufficient parking in each application for each house. We define the size of a parking space, but the critical is really, I think, that the parking has to be accessible to the street without having to move cars. And I think it's unlikely, if you've got a shotgun 5-car driveway, that you're actually going to park 5 cars in there and make sure that everybody leaves the house in the order in which the cars are parked. And so I think that's something that we'd like to see looked at very quickly, because we're really seeing a critical juncture in the village where 2 or 3 houses in a street can make a difference. And then once you start seeing on-street parking, everybody thinks that that's the norm. And I think that that's something we want to try and avoid. It's a safety issue. Our streets are relatively narrow. And then I think the last point is really to have a certificate of completion that the applicant, the builder, and the architect would sign, just attesting that the project has been completed according to the plans that are on file with the building department. Obviously, they could note any changes with the building inspector and write that into the plans, but at least this way we have some sort of record as to accountability. And so we appreciate the opportunity to run through this. I don't know if there's any questions that you have, but we did hire a consultant to take a look at this, to look at East Hampton's code, to look at the town code, and the second document that I gave you was a spreadsheet that analyzes what their formulas are. And I think in each case we pretty much give more latitude, and although it's less than what we currently give, so I think if we can step into this middle ground, perhaps we can, in short order, put together a plan that would work for everybody.
we were talking about this a little bit, I mean, a 10 by 17 foot for a parking spot is a very small car. You know, if you get a truck, it's going to be 18, 19, 20 feet. And I know that the building department's currently using, I think, 10 by 20 to classify a parking spot. So, I mean, me personally, I think I would rather use that number. And then, you know, we've talked about limiting the ability to stack cars and stuff, and you know, so the you know, accessibility for every single parking spot to the street. You know, some lots that may work, some it may not. You know, so it. But I think that I mean, I'm very happy. You know, we had the meeting this morning. I'm very happy with, and if we're on the same page in a lot of this stuff, and I think that. You know, Rick and I are going to sit down next week and come up with some changes, recommendations, send them to the planning commission, and get them out to the board for feedback, and you know, start making some tweaks here to the zoning code, which I think the key component to this is the height, the house height, and the smaller properties, and that's I like. I don't know if you guys have questions for.
I have a
Jay.
question on the reduction on this page. Okay. On the reduction of the gross floor area formula of the primary structure of 12% plus of lot size plus 1,400, and you want included half of the garage. Is that an attached garage?
That would be an attached garage, yes, and all of the third story.
Because there was a formula on the third story before, right?
Basically, you didn't count any of it if it was less than 50%, I believe, of usable space.
Yeah, because very often on the third floor, you have an area that is not usable because of the pitch of the roof. So I think it was at a certain height level, and then anything that was beyond that height level wouldn't be considered usable. It could be storage, but basically, if you're not dormering or, so I think that was the point on that. So you want to include all of the third story?
Well, only if it's living space, only if it would, and we'd have to come up with some sort of definition, maybe if the ceiling height is over 7.5 feet, 8 feet, whatever the number would be. But the rationale really was the technology has changed, so people have gotten really a bonus of a basement now that is beautiful living space. And so, you know, we're finding that on these small parcels, you can actually have 5,500 square feet of usable space on a third of an acre, and then still have a swimming pool, pool house, and a detached garage. So that was sort of the thinking. And currently, I believe it's 520 square feet is allowed to be pulled out for the garage, and we just sort of thought maybe the 50-50 formula was a better way of possibly doing that. But I think the numbers can definitely change. It's just as long as I think some of the concepts here are to try and scale back the GFA, scale back the lot coverage a little bit and the height in the smaller districts.
Yeah.
And on the 45-degree angle, I'm unsure as to what that's going to look like. I know that part of the problem all along with a lot of the architects was, and I would want this explained better, because I have no idea what a 45-degree angle will look like or pitch will look like. As long as it's attractive, I wouldn't want to see a pitch that is so slight that it really looks not good or is not reflective of what we've had here in the past. So I think that I'd like a little bit of a better definition on, and I'm sure they can do that.
What we're going to do is reach out to Chick and ask him to develop the building envelope and max it out on the same piece of property using what currently we have and then the recommendations here. And then see what happens from an architectural standpoint and then from an overall standpoint. So
I don't really have a problem with any of this, other than I want to make sure that the angles are right, and I mean, losing 100 feet is it 100 feet?
yeah.
100 feet is like nothing, but, and the height, I agree with the heights. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I would really like the planning commission to take a look at it.
So we'll come up with some recommendations is some zoning changes, and then send it off to the planning commission and begin the process here.
Okay, and there are a few individuals, I know Bruce wanted to make a comment. Would it be possible for the public, just quick, 1 or 2 minute
We
comments?
we do have some emails that came in here.
Oh, okay.
That Ann McElvaney, Barbara Missett, Walter Dean, Maureen Sherry, Regina Reiner Grieven, all sent emails in support of what your recommendations are. This is not really a public hearing piece right now.
Okay.
But I mean, if somebody wanted to stand up and I mean, I think that we have the public comment section at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
It's probably a good time to do that if they wanted to support that.
And what would you, I guess probably the only other thing is the time frame. How long do you think the process would take? Because it's sort of like Jim Morrison's song, "The time to hesitate is through."
Well, I mean, the process would be that we would have to, well, Rick, you want to touch base on the process itself?
Well, the first step is to draft a proposed local law.
Right.
And make sure that it's in a format that the Board of Trustees is generally comfortable with. You know, you don't want to start a formal public hearing process with something that you're not comfortable with, because then if there are changes to be made along the way, you got to start the public hearing process over with. So I think the first step is to draft something, and then have the Board of Trustees look at it to see if they feel they should go forward, and then schedule we can schedule a public hearing at the same time we send it to the Planning Commission if you want to move it along quicker.
Well, really, the first thing we should do is have Chick Voorhees maximize a lot, because the lot coverage that you've covered is key. You really covered 3 points that we've always discussed as a board. One is the height, lot coverage, and parking. And, you know, instead of making mistakes that we've made before, we should look and see what you can maximize, especially with the 45 degrees and reducing that 5 feet up. And what kind of a house you're going to get, as Nancy indicated, you may get a house with almost a flat roof. I don't think any of us want that.
No. Yeah.
So before we jump, I think we should take this look.
Well, I've got a call on the Chick to do that
Okay, great.
comparison right there. I mean, that is the one thing that, you know, if we start at 0, we start at 5 feet. You know, in one year, with the reductions in the height limitation, if we have, does changing where we start the pyramid law, what kind of impact would that? Because we really don't want to flatten the houses and make them wider. We're looking to, we don't want to lose the architectural component here. But I understand the idea is so we don't end up with these, 35-foot home on a quarter acre overlooking everybody in the neighborhood, you know, and that's the idea.
Or end up with a chalet in the middle of the...
Right, yeah, right,
You know?
yeah. So I think we're all...
Another possible way of doing it would be, you don't have to do them all in one local law.
Okay,
You know, we could draft separate local laws so that if there's some part of it that you're very comfortable with, you could move forward on that and then save another one for further study before. You know, there's a number of ways it can be done.
okay. That's actually a really good idea. And in that way, we don't end up, waiting for a Chick to complete that. So we're looking at pyramid law. Because I think we're on the same page about the height changes and
And the parking.
the parking definition, and even GFA and the lot coverage stuff. I think are pretty, they're minor changes and stuff. And the big question is going to be about the pyramid regulation and the change to that to 5 foot and how that impacts architecture on the homes and stuff. So
And would the certificate be a code change, or would that just be a building department requirement?
That I'd have to talk with Rick and John Foster to figure out what the appropriate piece with it.
I like the certificate.
Yeah.
I've always wanted that. I have always said if an architect has to sign off on something they've done, and we all know there are mistakes, and it isn't always the architect that's made the mistake. Very often there are builders who make mistakes, and then who has to live with it? The neighbors. So the point is, if they all have to sign off on it, there's somebody held accountable there. You know, I like that idea.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate great feedback, and
I appreciate the work you guys have put into this and the feedback you've given to the Planning Commission and to the board, and
good. We'll hold comments till next time. You've got a good
okay.
good slate to keep
All right,
going
great.
on.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. You've got the third presentation here. We've got the community tutoring program in the community garden, and come on up here, Natasha and Nature. How you doing?
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Nature Richard. I live here locally. I teach here at Southampton High School, and
Hi, my name is Natasha Jeffries. I also live here in Southampton, and I also work at Southampton High School.
And 2 years ago, Natasha and I started a program called the Community Tutoring Program. We did see that there was a need with many of the young kids in the community who needed tutoring, and they needed a place to go after school. And a lot of our after-school programs have been eliminated through budgets. So through our program, we've noticed different needs that either the community has, as well as many of the kids in our program. Our program, our host for the program is King's Chapel, over, what's the street? 57 Hillcrest Avenue. And one of the things that that our aim and goal is for this year is to have a community garden on Miller Road. I'm just going to use the PowerPoint as talking points. So we were naming it the Hillcrest Heritage Community Garden. And why were we looking at a community garden? Community gardens beautify neighborhoods and help bring neighbors closer together. They've been proven as tools to reduce neighborhood crime, particularly when vacant and blighted lots are targeted for garden development. Community gardens provide safe recreational green space and can contribute to keeping the community air clean. And for many, gardening is a relaxing way to exercise and enjoy being outdoors. There are also families from other cultures who would like to grow traditional foods not available in the supermarket. So where in the community? Also, because our program is at King's Chapel, we felt that this was also a great location. Most of our members in our community tutoring program live right in the community. It's a village-owned property, 105 Miller Road. We also, inside the packet, we did write a letter requesting the use of the property. We also have many community partnerships who support us. King's Chapel, Church of God in Christ, Southampton Town Youth Bureau. We've also attached a grant letter. Natasha and I wrote a grant, and we also received funding through the Southampton Town Youth Bureau. I believe that was in March. The Peconic Land Trust, Southampton Union Free School District Lunch Program. They also received a grant through the Southampton Town Youth Bureau, and they are willing to partner with us as well in helping us and guiding us through this process, because there's a community garden. They've gotten grants that are on the, I believe, on the high school property. Local landscapers and community members, and as well the community tutoring program. Our main goal for doing this were the kids. Seeing that the kids need not only to get outside and to do something like gardening, but it also had many educational goals to it as well. Nutrition connections, environmental awareness, entrepreneurship, social aspects of gardening such as leadership development, team building, community support, and service learning. And the buzzword, of course, the integration of Common Core learning standards.
That'll get you shot.
There are many problems, there is one problem that we are encountering. I don't want to say many because actually this is it has many good positive aspects to it. But the one problem that we are here seeking your help is our lack of access to water. Our possible solutions, rain barrels. We're looking at Southampton Village to help support us through the water department. We also attached a letter requesting water. There is a neighbor who is willing to let us use their water, but we are hoping not to go through that route and use the neighbor's water. And for continued funding, which is also an issue down the road, that we're looking at donations. So overall, those are the aspects of the program. We're looking for the village board to help support us in us gaining access for water. And we have had a lot of support. Actually, on our way over here, I got a text from a local teacher, and they're willing to help us even build the beds, the raised beds for the garden. And I just want to point out the letters that are attached. We have our Southampton, our Town of Southampton Youth Bureau, our acceptance letter, our letter to Mayor Epley, really informing and requesting what our goals were, a second letter requesting for supplying of water, and then I attached our grant, the grant that we sent to Southampton Town Youth Bureau, which kind of just outlines all of the aspects that even the town was looking for in granting anyone money. So really, this is something that's for the kids and for the community. It's nothing that we are going to set up a farm stand. We're not selling anything. It's really to get the community involved in a very positive way on Hillcrest Avenue.
Any
Let
questions?
the agent do all the talking here. Okay, you got off these.
And we would also like to thank Brenda and Mayor Epley for giving us this platform and allowing us to come and present. And Mayor Epley was very gracious in meeting with us prior to this meeting. And so we'd like to thank you guys for your consideration.
I know there's two issues, and the water is one, and the electric is another component too. Because went up to look at what it would take to tap in off the Suffolk County water, and it's very difficult for our guys to do that. So we actually had them price out a well on the property. Mm-hmm. So the well cost would be about $3,800 to do the well there. So we asked them to try to explore it, and then we've got to get electric to the well to be able to pump the water and stuff. So those are some challenges I know that I put in front of our guys. And, I did get one call from a neighbor up there. I haven't been able to speak to the neighbor yet to get feedback, but I know there's been a very successful gardening program at the intermediate school.
Yes.
That's been fantastic, and we've got a lot of positive feedback from that. And I know that there's another group working on a community garden using some of the CPF property in the village at Plus. But I think I love the program that you run, the way that you engage the young kids, and King's Chapel and the work that you guys do up there is it's fantastic, and I just love that what you guys do.
Thank you.
I don't know if you guys had any comments and questions.
Well, I think it's a great idea. Terrific. But doesn't the Parks Department have a watering truck?
They do.
Can't we utilize that somehow?
That was one of the suggestions.
That was one of our suggestions. Please.
Yeah. So
I'll support it.
Good. Well, that's on here. So I can't see
it's
that
also
one.
very easy.
Here
We
it
can
is.
put a polyethylene barrel up there.
Yes, I know the Peconic Land Trust also suggested the use of rain barrels.
Right.
I think that any other questions for these guys?
Great idea.
Comments or stuff?
You can have a farm-to-table dinner when all the veggies come in. Wouldn't that be fabulous?
Oh, I like that. That's a great idea. And we will definitely invite you when we have our ribbon cutting ceremony as well.
Good.
Because we want to really get the kids excited about something positive. And this is something positive. We live in a community where our culture is indigenous to farming. And I think it's very important for our kids to make sure that we keep that going. And if some kids have never gardened, their parents might not garden, and between the gardening being a healthy and fun activity to do outside, we also would like to teach the kids to eat healthier, which I know is a nationwide commitment.
Nothing, it's like a miracle when you put that seed in the ground and all of a sudden it starts to grow and it pierces the earth and becomes something that has veggies on
Absolutely.
it. It's so amazing.
Absolutely, and for the kids to know, to see that, and for them to be a part of that. I'm hoping that this will be something that will continue and be a very positive aspect in the kids' lives, and that they will be able to bring home and carry on to their families.
So why don't we do this? Can we look at the property up there, maybe do a rough layout of how you want to lay it out, look at some of the, and see what, we'll have a public comment section after, it later on.
You're talking about this like it's a done deal.
I'm not talking about it as a dump.
Neighbors who live.
It's,
Okay.
like I said, a call from a neighbor up there, haven't talked to the neighbor, you know, we have support from the board, but there's other things that I'm gonna ask them to give me a layout up there and what it would entail, and then, you know, and we'll bring it back here and have a conversation with you guys and,
Okay.
and
We
get
appreciate
feedback.
that.
You know, it's the first time we're talking about it. You know,
Yes.
we welcome people to submit an email in favor of this or in opposition, and have any questions or comments, you can bring it to my office and we'll go from there.
I would like to just say
Yeah.
that there are also a lot of neighbors in the community who are in support.
Yeah.
And so we will reach out to them and have them
And
contact
have
your
them
office.
contact.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
support.
it's, you know, this is the first time it's being talked about, and that's why I wanted to say, if we have a layout, a rough layout, I don't know what
Absolutely.
size the boxes are that you're looking to do.
Absolutely.
Setbacks from the property and all of this stuff, and we have to look at what the demands are from a watering requirement, if the village truck is gonna go up there, if we're gonna collect it, or if we're gonna go out and try to raise the $3,800 to put the well in. You know, all of those things are
Give you
factors
a
that roll
plan
into
with
it.
the layout.
Yep, which would be great, and then it would give us an opportunity to respond to any positive or negative feedback that comes from the result of people watching the meeting or reading about it in the press or whatever. And
Absolutely, and we were going to do it sooner than later, just due to gardening restraints of the seasons.
yeah, fully aware of that.
Okay.
Okay, all right, good.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much again.
Thanks, guys.
Before
Yep,
we forget, we should find out what is the source of our title to the property,
okay, yep.
whether there's any restrictions or anything else that emanate from that.
Okay, that's a good.
I don't know if we got this property from
I'm not sure
Suffolk
what.
County for non-payment of taxes, or whether we got it from somebody who just donated it to us, or whether, pardon?
I'll check the deed.
Yeah, we'll look at the deed, so. And then the other piece would be, would we have to, if we were, say it's clean title, and we're able to do this, we get support from the neighbors, would we have to do some type of, you know, lease with the church over this and to indemnify the village for anything that might happen up there?
Right.
We probably want some kind of a license agreement.
Yeah, some kind of licensing agreement and stuff like that, which we would probably have to do. So,
Mark,
yeah,
we have the capacity, you know, the toughest part of gardening is tilling the soil. And it's, you know, it's a real chore to do it with a spade. Don't we have lots of equipment where we could just go in and, you know, and
Gee,
help
we have
them?
a brand-new John Deere.
But I think if they're
Nothing
doing
runs-
raised
Well,
beds, it's
I
different.
think that's the, if you look at the first picture there, that shows the raised beds.
It's different. You dump the soil in
So,
there and then you let it stand back and watch it
We were
grow.
hoping that would be better than touching the land. We were trying to help beautify the community and conserve it. We don't want to disturb any neighbors and change the lay of the land in a way that would make people upset.
Actually, a lot of people grow their garden in these raised beds now.
Yes.
It's actually better for weeds and stuff, I think.
Everything I try to grow dies, so.
No.
Okay. Okay, thanks, and then we'll look forward to, if you want to stick around, again, we have public comment at the end of the meeting. Anybody providing positive or negative comment in reference to this, and then we can take those and look to where we go from here. Okay? All right, thanks, guys. All right, good. We have a public hearing on 1280 Meadow Lane LLC, exemption from local law number 4. We need to, so I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on 1280 Meadow Lane LLC.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Actually, when we set this up, is there a way to set it up to where actually the audience can see it too?
We haven't had one of these in a
We actually have
on the boards,
packets
or-
here and stuff.
If
So.
we could do it against the wall so the public can
Yeah,
see
just
it.
do it again. Do it.
I'll explain.
Hey, Chris, just do it against the wall over there. It's not way, because I think we have all the information in front of us here. That way the audience can see.
Is this something new?
Yeah.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsica Bruin, Southampton, here on behalf of 1280 Meadow Lane LLC. As the mayor indicated, we're here, public hearing for the first time on an exemption from local law number 4 of 2014 as it was extended by the board. The applicant is the owner of real property on the southerly side of Meadow Lane, approximately 405 feet west of Road C. For the board's information, we did submit an affidavit of posting and mailing for the record. And before you, we just submitted out a supplemental package that basically, for the board's review, will basically, all the boards that will be presented tonight these are smaller copies of those. So again, the property's on the southerly side. It fronts on the ocean. The property contains about 272,000 square feet, roughly 6.25 acres. It's rectangular in shape with 315 plus or minus feet of frontage on Meadow Lane and extends over 850 feet southerly to the mean high water of the Atlantic Ocean. It's currently improved with a large 2.5-story dwelling with an attached garage, patios, and swimming pool, all which lie seaward of the coastal erosion hazard line and are non-conforming with respect to all FEMA requirements, dune setbacks, and other current building code standards. And we supplied a copy of the existing condition survey in our original submission. The property is located within the Residence R80 zoning district and the Tidal Floodplain Overlay District. The premises is not located within the historic district. The applicant acquired the premises for very substantial consideration, well over $25 million in June of 2011. We bought it in conjunction with the property to the north of Dune Road, which, as you know, contains the premises where the boathouse, the iconic boathouse, is located, which is currently in a very deteriorated state and collapsed state, and we're trying to get all the permits for it at the same time. And just as a note there, the village has been very supportive of that. Currently, we're having some issues with the DEC. As a condition of the contract of purchase, we did have the previous owners obtained a demolition permit, which has been kept valid and existing up until this date. It's still valid. At any point, we can demolish the structure. Shortly after the premises were acquired, my clients engaged several professionals to guide them through the regulatory process. And their first approach to this property was to try to expand or reconstruct a new dwelling at the location of the existing dwelling. And as you can imagine, that proposed dwelling would have had issues with any expansions, being that it's entirely south of the coastal erosion line, but in addition, complying with FEMA and all other requirements. After several meetings with village officials and consultants with respect to the redevelopment, the applicant realized it would be more beneficial to both the village and themselves to reconstruct a new dwelling landward of the coastal erosion line and the dune setback. We've engaged new architects, undertook development plans that fully comply with the current building and zoning requirements, except for the placement of a tennis court in the required front yard, which, as you know, is a typical design along Meadow Lane. The applicant was close to a submission approximately 6 months ago. However, the village board adopted the moratorium. We've patiently been waiting through this past couple of months to get through the moratorium, but upon the board's extension, it prompted this application for an exemption. The hardships of that we have and all the costs that it's taking to more or less present a application that complies in all respects to the current zoning code and requirements of the village, other than the tennis court in the front yard, are substantial, as noted in our petition. But as the board is well aware, the primary purpose of this moratorium is related to height. And what we have is a proposed dwelling, and our team, our architect, Patrick McGranahan, and our landscape architects, Chris LaGuardia and Dan Thorpe, are here to present more details, but I'd like to summarize them briefly. The site plan that you see on the board shows a number of things. First, the property on the board is oriented so Dune Road is to the left-hand side of that board, and on the right-hand side is the Atlantic Ocean. So the left-hand side is to the north, the top is to the east, and the bottom is to the west. The purple line that you see is the Dune Crest line. That was established by your village consultants, and you can see there is a substantial dune feature there. In fact, its highest point exceeds 40 feet above mean sea level. The next line that you see, the next purple line, is the 100-foot dune crest setback. And as you can see, the next line, the red line, going in a more or less east-west direction, is the coastal erosion line. If you look, you'll see the underlying existing dwelling. You can see it's entirely south of the coastal erosion line and all the improvements, including the swimming pool, well within the 100-foot dune setback.
Wouldn't it be north of it?
Excuse me? Nothing is north of those lines now. The proposed house, however, okay, that's the existing house.
You're right. Okay.
Okay. The proposed house, however, everything will be constructed north of the coastal erosion line. It complies in all respect to all zoning requirements. The only issue comes back to your moratorium, where you have indicated, despite the longstanding interpretation of the code by the building inspector of height being measured at the FEMA level +2 for the freeboard, plus either the 27 or 35 feet of height. In this particular case, our proposed house is measured here, the FEMA zones that are also noted on the plan. The FEMA zone is a base elevation of 17. So basically that would require a house that is built in this location to have a first floor elevation of 17 plus the 2, or at 19 feet is where you could start the first floor elevation. If you add, in this instance, we're looking at a modern design house, which we believe is consistent with the character of the area, and that design would have a maximum height of 27 because it's not a pitched roof. So when you add those together, the maximum elevation above mean sea level in this particular design would be 46 feet. However, if you take the moratorium language and you take the average elevation at grade at this site, which is a little over 9 feet, and you add the 27 feet to that, you have an elevation of 36 feet above mean sea level. So if you take the difference between the 36 feet and the 19 feet that you have to build the first floor at, you're essentially, under your current moratorium standards, would allow on this 6-acre lot that we paid $25 million for, a house that could be 17 feet tall. And essentially, I think that in itself expresses the primary hardship that we have here in addition to the time periods. Nonetheless, what I'd like to do at this point is have Patrick take us through some of the building elevations so you can understand those, and then we'll have Dan and Chris take you through some of the landscape features. Essentially, our goal on this lot, which we think is different than many other parcels that may have prompted your moratorium, this is a 6-acre lot. It's a very large lot. Our proposed dwelling is well over 260 feet from Meadow Lane, the setback. It complies in all respect to the code. It also, we believe, complies in respect to most of the suggestions we've heard. The one point on the height, the FEMA +2, you'll see is consistent with the character of the area. We'll have that discussion as well. And so without further ado, I'll let Patrick McGranahan and his firm present the plans.
Great, thank you, Wayne. Good evening. My name is Patrick McGranahan. I'm representing my architecture firm, McGranahan Architecture, DPC. It's a pleasure to meet with you this evening and have the opportunity to present the proposed design for 1280 Meadow Lane. We've really enjoyed the process, and in particular working with LaGuardia Design to make sure that we're producing a design that is cohesive relative to the building design and the site in which it's located, and to do that in the context of what we think is a good fit for the neighborhood. As Wayne pointed out, we have a design that is conforming with the current zoning. We've produced a series of drawings for tonight's discussion, and I'd be happy to go through them in any detail that you feel appropriate. But they include generally some rendered scenes of the views that would be evident from Meadow Lane. We also produced floor plans, building sections, building elevations, diagrams relative to what the moratorium allows us to build as of right, and also diagrams that represent the house in the proposed form relative to the zoning, which has been in evidence in recent years. To begin with, the rendered views of the elevation, on the top view, this is the scene that you would have from Meadow Lane. The general goal is to keep the house low and knitted tightly to its landscape and to its site, such that the house is predominantly screened with landscape. Chris can speak to some of the plant species that are viable in this environment, given some of the prevailing conditions. But it's not a landscape that's going to grow extremely high so that it would blanket the house at any height. The house at the height proposed would be screened effectively with the landscape that's appropriate for this specific area. But the idea is that if you saw glimpses of the house, that's basically all you would see from Meadow Lane. That's the intent. The lower scene is a view that if you're climbing, ascending the driveway and basically in the parking area in front of the house, this is where the house's character is really revealed. As Wayne pointed out, it is a modern design. It's a flat roof structure, which we find to be very compatible with other structures in this immediate neighborhood, including ones under construction now. It's comprised of a rich palette of architectural materials, including several types of stone, as well as terracotta, metal. It's a rich and we think a very appropriate palette for this specific area, and again, compatible with what we see in the neighborhood. We've also made great effort to break down this large house into smaller component pieces. By that I mean, and I would say akin to some of the discussions underway relative to the definitions applied to traditional homes and traditional architecture in this area. We've broken the house into component parts and into wings. So the house is comprised essentially of an X shape. There are 4 different wings, and I can show you in the floor plans how it relates to the proposed program. But what it does is it starts to break the house down into smaller pieces. It's not one continuous rectangle. It is a house that has a lot of depth as you approach it, on both this side as well as the ocean and ocean side, south side, as well as the east and west facades as well. So there are places where there are great indentations in the facade to suggest where the entrance occurs. There's also a lot of overhanging conditions with roof overhangs. There's a porch condition on the left-hand side, the bottom of the view, where a dining area exists. So there'll be a lot of play with light and shadow, and it'll be a house that I think will be animated in the presence of light throughout the course of the year. If there are any specific questions about the facades, I'd be happy to answer that, or we can go on and look at some of the diagrams.
No, that's, so.
Great. Dan, do you want to go to, why don't we go to the overall street elevation? We can just look at it relative to. Yeah, let's start with this one. And then we'll go to the next one, please. Oh, the other one? The original. Yeah, so just to touch on this briefly, and this is related to the point that Wayne was making earlier. This is a diagram of.
We actually have a copy of that, so if they actually want to face
okay,
the
great.
audience so they see that.
Yep.
I think we have a copy of everything that you have here, right?
And yes, you do. And
So-
I'll describe these also. We'll go to the site plan, that kind of an aerial view that'll show you where these properties exist. But this is an elevation that we created across Meadow Lane that shows the relationship of the proposed residence at this, or the property, I'd say, where the proposed design is situated at the center in that reddish tone, and left and right the adjacent structures. To the far left is 1240 Meadow Lane, and that's the residence that's currently, a very modern residence that currently is under construction now. You can see it on the right of the aerial photo. 1260 is immediately to the left of the subject property, and again, another flat roof structure, modern in design. And then to the right in the overall street elevation is the property at 1320 Meadow Lane that's also currently under construction. Thank you. So really this diagram is not showing the scale of the proposed house. It's really describing what Wayne was just talking about earlier. Under the conditions of the moratorium, what is buildable as of right at this moment would be a one-story structure that's considerably lower in scale than the houses adjacent. So just showing you kind of from a scale standpoint what we'd be able to do in it. And as Wayne pointed out, it would be a single-story structure given the FEMA zone that the house resides in, as well as the moratorium limit that's opposed. The next diagram shows the massing and scale of the proposed residence. And we produced this one primarily just to illustrate the fact that the proposed house is very much in keeping with the scale of all of the properties adjacent. Our proposed roof elevation for the major roof is at elevation 46, and that is exactly the same height as the house that's currently under construction at 1240 Meadow Lane. And then 1260, the existing house, we believe is 1 foot higher than that in its existing form, but for all intents and purposes, the same height. And as well, 1320 Meadow Lane under construction is reaching the same height, albeit with a slightly different architectural approach. So we find it to be very compatible with the neighborhood. And as Wayne pointed out, this is based on the FEMA VE17 zone with the 2 feet of freeboard, which would represent the underside of the first floor structure, and then the 27 feet above that representing the height allowable for a flat roof structure, at bringing us to elevation 46. Okay. And let's go to. So the next scene, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit in the documents that we presented to you. This again is a diagram, not a proposed design, of the house that would be allowable under the moratorium conditions today. And really we show this not to just belabor the point, but really to show a significant site feature that exists in this property. The dune rises on this property to a height of a peak of around elevation 45. And you can see its relationship to this house. So just another significant site condition that would be a considerable challenge if we had only a one-story structure on this site. The companion section, the next one you have, shows just a couple of sections through the proposed residence, and again, the red line in each of these diagrams represents what is allowable under the moratorium conditions, and the line above, the green line, represents the proposed height, which is designed to be compatible with the zoning limitations that have been enforced recently. The other views that I have, if you'd like to go through them, really represent floor plans, if you care to see how the house is organized, as well as
really
elevations.
just looking at, moratorium exemption off the height, and I think that, I don't know if you guys have any questions?
No, just like Chris and Dan, to go through a little bit of the landscape so that you can understand that. Just one note with the aerial photograph, you'll see the 4 properties in addition to our own property, the property to the west, which is under construction, and that was compared on the overall elevation. You can see the height of that structure, which is FEMA +2. In addition, the existing house to the east, as well as the new house to the construction on the west, further to the east, the Walentas house. So when you compare that with the proposed Amena house here, you'll see that when you forget the height issue for a second, but you just compare it with respect to environmental compliance, you'll see that our proposed structure in the new location is behind the coastal erosion line, and the properties to the east particular are forward of that line. And they acquired either they're pre-existing or required, obtained some sort of relief to be further out. And so this is, from an environmental standpoint, more compliant. But I'll let Chris and Dan now take you through some of the landscape.
Chris LaGuardia, landscape architect, Watermill, New York.
Dan Thorpe, landscape architect with LaGuardia Design.
So before I start, I just wanted to give a little overview of Meadow Lane. I moved here in 1984 to work for George Lynch, Dean Peters. As a landscape architect, we were involved in the early development of Meadow Lane. It had just been paved, and I worked for them for a few years. We did Bob Sillerman's house, which truly is one of the finest examples of a natural landscape out there. Most people don't even notice the house because of the landscape. After working with Dean and George, I worked for Norman Jaffe, who also was very big in the development of homes on Meadow Lane. And as you know, his work is always integrated with the landscape very nicely. And driving down Meadow Lane now, you don't really see these homes. They're ensconced in landscaping. And we've learned over the years what it takes to work on the ocean, and it's difficult. And even now, things have changed. FEMA is raising houses up. Houses are getting bigger. The building codes have increased. The demise of Japanese black pine, which is really the main screening plant that was used down there, is now on its way out. So we've developed techniques over time, various projects. Recently, Dan and I completed Calvin Klein's house at 1080?
1080 Meadow Lane.
1080 Meadow Lane. We have worked at David Koch's house at 1088, Andrew and Dana Stone's at 520. We've done numerous projects along the road, and recently, working with the village, we've gotten a few exemptions approved, 2024 Gin Lane and 450 Gin Lane. We have a good relationship with Chick Voorhees and John Foster, so we know how to work with them to do a nice job for them. So the landscape here is no different than the other cases. We're just limited very much by the fact that pines don't live anymore, by a very small height and plant material. The highest most plants will get now is about 16 feet. And when you think about a FEMA compliant house at elevation 40, okay, we're dealing with a little piece here and a big piece there. So to be effective, as the rendering shows, we accomplish privacy for the owners and screening for the public. I mean, I love architecture, but I love the fact that you drive down Meadow Lane and you really don't have these houses in your face.
I think it's important to point out that we're The methodologies we're proposing with planting and grading are integral to raising the landscape around the house to prevent these homes from having to be on pilings, like you see in West Hampton Beach, or seen from Meadow Lane. You're not looking at pilings.
Right. There's other factors that contribute here. We have a proposed tennis court, which the village requires to be sunken. But on Meadow Lane, you can't sink tennis courts because of its proximity to groundwater. So typically, we build the courts above ground. We add a retaining wall and add fill around the court to make it compliant with the village code. Sanitary system as well is always elevated above groundwater. Driveways curve up to the house in a winding fashion, again raising the grade up. All this sets up our landscape design by grading and filling and creating contours to create a very natural dune-like landscape. And by placing these 14 to 16 foot high plants in groupings, chevroning their way up the property, you see the depth of that, we effectively screen the house. And so this is an effective approach that we've implemented for many years, and we're using that on the Domena house as well. So
I think it's just worth re-mentioning that application that went before the Architecture Review Board 4 or 5 years ago for Calvin Klein's house at 1080 Meadow Lane. We proposed the same methodology of screening along Meadow Lane to totally ensconce and hide the house from view. And it's a living example. If you drive down Meadow Lane now, you can't see the house at 1080 Meadow Lane, and that's what we're proposing here.
Any questions?
To hide it, that's an area that drops down considerably off of that dune.
Mm-hmm.
How many feet of fill are you gonna have to bring in?
Well, I'll show you
It's
the
gotta
plan
be
here.
20-some feet of fill. I mean,
Yes. As Patrick pointed out, there's a large dune system here. It's 40-some feet high. It's conical. It rises up like this. It's a result of the house creating a lee in the wind, allows sand to accumulate here. We're going to tear this house out and install this whole green swatch here is a dune restoration. And we're filling in the old house and fortifying this dune, which will collapse if we don't, with this dune restoration along this whole seaward edge of our limited disturbance. So that's our goal. The amount of fill is broken down by area, and that's dictated by replacing the existing residence that's there, sanitary system, the tennis court, the driveway. So there's a lift here of 10 feet, which is not uncommon on Meadow Lane, and then it just gradually slopes back down to the street. I'd like to mention that this area right here, 125-foot band, is a native planting that Chick Voorhees often asks for, which we embrace. And it really is the beginning of this site design as it climbs up to a reasonable level to enter the house through a 6-foot high set of steps. So grading and plant material working together are what achieve this level of screening, which everybody, I believe, wants.
right, but still, how many feet of fill do you plan to bring in?
It varies by area.
What's the max that you're bringing?
The 10-foot lift here from elevation 10 to elevation 20.
But that's at the existing house
Right.
that we have to fill in.
Right.
Over here, we're at elevation 16, going down, back down to elevation 8. So it's an average, and then gradually work down to 0. So it's a tapering effect. Sort of a very amorphic mass of fill. This is the dunescape. It's hard to quantify. We have it broken down, fill quantities broken down. So,
Chris, could you just point out on that plan, you can see, but you could see it on the aerial photograph, just how sort of how our neighboring properties, what's on the neighboring properties. So, for example, to our east, you have it on that site plan on the bottom.
yeah, this one with the adjacencies.
Right.
Yeah, I'll point out that this house to the east has a retaining wall along the property line. It's about 12 feet tall. It's a fairly typical approach people use when they're bringing fill up against their house and the side yards, and it's effective. This is their existing landscaping here. So that creates a very effective screen. But Domenas also have an existing concrete wall. It's probably goes back to when the original house was built, along the property line here as well. This is a new house under construction, has a retaining wall that runs the length of the property here and then up Meadow Lane. It's about 4 feet high, I believe. So our site plan is not much different than many other site designs on Meadow Lane. These are all typical moves that I've done for 30 years. So it's nothing you haven't seen before. It's sand fill. We bring in mined sand and we cap it with a dredged beach sand, which is a white sand. It's very organic, and that's what our growing medium is for the dune restorations and all the native plantings.
Then the other question I have, FEMA at 46, what base elevation did you use?
It's 19.
19, so you use natural grade?
Yeah, the base elevation is 17 plus the 2 feet of freeboard. The base elevation then is 19 feet. Which, you know, I think your moratorium, the whole dilemma here, you know, wasn't something that the village created or developers created. It's FEMA came along and said, wait a minute, we want all these houses up higher on pilings. And I think the village has had a tradition. You know, the one thing, you know, that I can say is the village has sought and your, you know, residents have designed many of these landscapes that Mr. LaGuardia has pointed out. Whereas if you were to compare us to the Jersey Shore or Cape Hatteras, where everybody's, you know, 20 feet in the air on pilings. And that's, I think, the dilemma you have in looking at this. So one of the things that we're not doing here is the grading or the fill is not doing anything to the height of the structure. What it's doing is supporting the septic system, it's supporting the screening of the tennis court, and it's also supporting this landscape that you can create. And in this context on this property, as Mr. LaGuardia just pointed out, it's not something that's unusual. The two sites adjacent to us have had grading and fill, and they have retaining walls to basically maintain that on their property at this time. So we're somewhat consistent with that, as you can see on the plans. Also the aerial photograph and the plans and the elevations that we presented to you that are in part of your package, you can see as far as the height is concerned, we're no different, which I think is something that you've looked at in other examples and exemptions that you've granted. And here, again, the height that we're proposing is consistent with the long-term standing interpretation, the FEMA +2. In all other respects, when we looked at any discussion that this board has had or any of your consultants, we would comply pretty much with any other standard pyramid or other standards that are being addressed. We think we can comply with all those requirements. I just want to point out, you know, we were required to send notices out to our neighbors as the board requests, and some may be here or not. I'm sure that that'll be the next step, but I do want to point out Gil Flanagan, who represents our neighbor immediately to the east, did call up our office, asked for, you know, we did send a smaller version, which are hard to see, and we gave him a full-size set of plans. And his response, he didn't do anything formally in a letter, but I have a copy of the memo and the phone message that he gave us. But basically, they believe that his client has no issues and no opposition to the request that we're seeking. So I'll just submit this for the record as well. So we're here if you have any further questions or need any further information. And we're interested to see if there's any comments that either the board or the public has.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this? It's a public hearing. Have anybody from the public would like to speak or make comment in reference to this application? Okay. I don't have any feedback. So, Rick, I know we need to draft up a.
I think you can first make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then I think we should wait until the next meeting to adopt a resolution.
Yes.
So I can do some wording for it.
Okay. So at the meeting on the 26th, of a resolution Tuesday the 26th, at 5 o'clock. So we'll have a resolution at that point in time to vote on. And, any other comments from these guys? So, thanks for the information, the presentation. We'll be, see you on the 26th.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. See, I would trip and fall and break every one of those boards. That's just me, so. Communications to the board.
Okay, item 1 is from the Commission on Patriotic Events. The Commission on Veterans Patriotic Events would like to request permission to hold a short parade on Monday, May 25th, as part of our Memorial Day service. The parade will begin at approximately 10:45. All are invited to attend. We also like to request permission to hold our 4th annual 4th of July parade on Saturday, July 4th at 10 a.m. Thank you for your consideration of these matters, and hope to see you on May 25th.
Make a motion to authorize the Commission on Veterans Patriotic Events to hold the Memorial Day service and parade and the 4th of July parade in accordance with their letter dated April 26, 2015.
Second?
Second.
In favor?
I just have to say, the speaker is Ben Patton, who was General Patton's grandson.
Good.
That's
And,
great.
he is an independent filmmaker. His father actually was a general also.
Wow.
And he does work with veterans that are dealing with trauma, and it should be a very interesting presentation by him. So,
Okay, great. Next one is from Mark Parrish, SYA lacrosse coach. I would like permission to have an end of lacrosse season gathering at Cooper's Beach. We're looking at Sunday, May 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. This is for the local SYA lacrosse teams that will be finishing their season. You were kind enough to allow this last year. It's a great way to end the season. The kids had a blast and enjoyed celebrating with teammates at Cooper's Beach. Would it be possible to relax the Cooper's Beach parking permit rules from 5 to 7? Not all attendees will be village residents. We appreciate your support for our youth sports program. Looking forward to hearing from you.
we did this last year.
Yeah, do it.
And it was a nice event, and so to make a motion to authorize the SYA lacrosse team to utilize Cooper's Beach on Sunday, May 17th from 5 to 7.
Second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Next one's from Operation Art Alliance, Project 9 Line 501c is a not-for-profit veterans group dedicated to supporting returning veterans by providing opportunities for them to express themselves through arts and crafts and providing venues for them to share their work with the public. To this end, we are forming a civilian alliance dubbed Operation Art Alliance. The alliance will help to integrate our novice veterans with seasoned artists to provide fellowships, forge partnerships, and offer entrepreneurial opportunities. Our plans are to host a series of art shows throughout Long Island by utilizing local parks, VFWs, and American Legion posts. Agawam Park, directly across from Veterans Memorial Hall, was identified as having outstanding potential for hosting one of our art shows, and we were directed to your office to explore this possibility. Our Art Alliance is expected to be on a smaller size, with roughly 25 artisans in total, each artist utilizing no more than 10 by 10 space. We will be carrying our own event liability insurance, and the village will be protected in the rider. Same standards set by Suffolk County Parks Department. We can imagine the demands for the park may be substantial, but our schedule is somewhat flexible, and a single day or a weekend over the summer-fall season will go a long way in helping us to help our veteran community. Thank you so much for your consideration into this request. More detailed information can be found at project9line.org.
What I'd like to do is take this idea to the CVO, get feedback from them on this, because I know they want to do a standalone event, and then and find out and kind of what their thoughts are in reference to this about times, and we don't want to and then we have to come back and look at dates for the entire park and stuff. So, and we'd like to meet with these guys too. So if anybody's interested in meeting with the Yes, would be good.
Okay. Item 4 is from Southampton Public Schools. The graduating class of 2015 would like permission to borrow the large American flag to use as a backdrop for the graduation ceremony. Date of graduation is June 26th. We'd like to pick up the flag on Monday, June 22nd. We can arrange to have it set up for the rehearsal. We will return the flag the following week. Thank you for your consideration. This matter is greatly appreciated. Brian's on principal.
I'll make a motion to authorize Southampton High School to utilize the flag in accordance with their letter dated May 13th, 2015. We do this
Every year. Yep. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolutions. Item 1, resolved the reading of the minutes for the work session of April 21st, 2015, and the special meeting of May 1st, 2015 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at the meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Can I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated May 14th, 2015, totaling $519,895.53. Warrant 14, General Fund, $47.48, and $52,711.71. Warrants 23 and 12, Trust Fund, and $18,150.89. Warrant 12, Capital Reserve Fund. And the village payrolls for the period ending April 30th, 2015 be ordered and approved. Can I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion. Item 1, Gary Aldrich, Fire Department Medical Reimbursement, $1,000. Page 2, Aldo Andrioli, May Engineering Fees, $32.50. Atlantic Salt, 44 tons of salt, $3,000 to $3,242. Barnwell House of Tires, $2,090.32. Tires for the garage. David Brown, ambulance reimbursement, medical expenses, $1,000. Buzz Chew, Chevy Olds, going on to page 3, $3,210.58. Parts for the garage. CSE Employment Benefit Fund, May premium, $24,553.20. Tom Campbell, ambulance medical reimbursement, $1,000. $100,000 transfer to the Village of Southampton Capital Reserve account. Page 4, going on to page 5, cash production services for April, $1,646.65. City Energy street lighting supplies, $4,295. Page 6, coastal fire system stretchers and backboards for the fire department, $3,029.61. Cook Marin insurance installment, $22,448. Ed Corrigan, fire department medical reimbursement, $1,000. Legal fees for Moore versus the SCPD to Devitt Spellman, $1,660. Page 7, James Durier, Fire Department Medical Reimbursement, $1,000. Page 8, EMT Government and Accounting Services for April, $1,021.25. Payment to Farrell Fritz for the Sewer District, $3,955. Page 9, Firematic Supply, ladder truck parts, $2,058.55 for the Fire Department. Jonathan Ford, Fire Department Medical Reimbursement, $1,000. Global Montello, 3,001 gallons of diesel fuel, $5,725.01. Page 10, Hartford Plumbing and Heating, Fire Sprinkler Repair at 470 Hampton Road. Herrick Hardware, April Supplies, going on to page 12, $2,029.01. Hildress Benches, $3,531. Industrial Hearing on page 13, hearing testing for the DPW, $1,035. Intelligent Products, Muttmitz for the Parks Department, $1,515.59. Johnson Electrical Construction Services, April traffic signal maintenance, $1,350. John King, Fire Department Medical Reimbursement, $1,000. Page 14, Donna Krenberg, Fire Department Medical Reimbursement, $1,000. Long Island Cauliflower Ballpark Clay for the ball fields, $2,847.20. And page 15, Long Island Cauliflower Ballpark Conditioners, $1,798.80. Long Island East Printing for the Fire Department, $1,230. Lynch's Garden Center, going on to page 16, $7,955.70 mainly for the Parks Department. Malvesi Equipment, sweeper brooms, replacement parts, $1,006.06. Page 17, Messiano Consulting, grant writing services through the end of April, $5,025. Northern Water Supply, parts for the garage, going on to page 18, $2,774.29. North and Son, April Parting, $4,765. Page 19, Office of the State Controller, March fines, $12,466 for the court. Page 22, Robinson and Robinson Esquires, ARB Services, $19,530. Ronco Cleaning Supplies, $2,873.58. RS Sales, Parks Bathroom Supplies, $1,388.51. Page 23, David Silverstein, refund of the building department, $4,062.50. South Shore Fire and Safety, Fire Department Equipment, $7,121.10. Sprague Operating Reserve, 2,968 gallons of gasoline for $5,088.64, and 3,000 gallons for $5,778.60. 24, Student Wealth Consulting for the ARB, $1,387.50. Suburban Auto Services, repairs to the fire marshal vehicle, $1,997.46. Suffolk County National Bank, bond payment on the World War I Memorial and the Village Hall restoration, $129,360. Suzanne Handon Associates, Transcription Services, $1,715. Press Newspaper Group, payment towards the September Fest, $5,000. Page 25, Vince Toomey, April legal fees, $19,882.99. Trias Sweeper Parts, $1,109.72. Diego Trujillo, medical reimbursement for the fire department, $1,000. Page 26, Tyco Security Systems for the 25 Jobs Lane, $1,455.42. Vector Airport Systems, 2015 maintenance for the monitoring system at the heliport, $4,800. Vehicle Tracking Solutions, GPS, $1,055.56. Wainscott Sand for the ball field, $1,162.68. And on page 27, Wainscott Sand for Bailey Road, backfill, $5,743.93. James White on page 28, Fire Department medical reimbursement. Trust warrant, final payment on the dock at Agawam Lake, Atlantic Coast Dock, $41,849. Braun Marketing, the mailing for the 375 anniversary, $2242.71, paid for by donations. Wainscott Sand and Gravel for the heliport parking lot, $7,940. And capital reserve warrant, coastal fire systems, rescue equipment for the fire department, $5,605.30. Jade Constructions, the final payments on the stair tower in the back of the village hall, $11,093. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers to eliminate overages for the period April 22nd through May 14th, 2015. Can I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 1, $5,000 into Trustees contractual, $6,000 to grant writer, $30,000 to law contractual, with $41,000 out of Trustees special projects. Next item, $5,000 to Justice Court personal services from contractual. Next item is $4,000 to clerk personal from clerk contractual. Next item is $30,000 into police overtime, $5,000 to police miscellaneous, $5,000 to police clothing, with $15,000 coming from police personal, $15,000 from police contractual, and $10,000 from police supplies. Next item is $20,000 to radio operators overtime, $5,000 to radio operators holiday vacation, with $25,000 from radio operators personal service. Next item is $10,000 to fire utilities coming from fire equipment. Next item is $15,000 to safety inspecting personal, street maintenance personal, $31,000, $20,000 to street maintenance overtime, $7,000 to the street maintenance supplies, with $10,000 coming from street maintenance fuel, and $63,000 from debt service principal. Next item is safety inspections equipment, $6,000 in. Refund building inspector fees, $4,100. Ambulance salaries, $8,000. Cooper's Beach equipment, $4,200. $6,000 to ARB contractual, $16,500 to Parks equipment, $6,000 to Parks miscellaneous, with $1,000 coming from ARB personal, $2,000 from Planning Commission personal, $5,000 from Planning contractual, $42,800 from Trustees special projects. Next item is $5,500 in cultural personal, $8,600 into employee benefits Social Security, with $14,100 coming from debt service interest. And the last item is $16,000 to Parks personal, $8,000 into Parks overtime, $2,000 into utilities, $12,000 to Parks contractual, with $6,000 coming from Park supplies, and $32,000 from debt service principal. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor to sign a construction management contract with SCC Construction Management Group, 190 Motor Parkway, Suite 201, Hopog, New York, 11788, in the amount of $325,500 for the construction of the new ambulance barn. Have a motion?
You make a motion on this.
I know.
I'll make
Rich
that
is not
motion.
Yeah,
here.
Rich is not here, yeah.
Right.
Second?
Second.
Let's discussion around this, so.
Yeah, this is, SCC had done the 470 Hampton Road. They did a great job. This is the number that was budgeted in the original bond proposal. It'll be an on-site construction manager.
And the importance
You're the
piece,
construction manager? Okay.
and the important piece is to engage them now because of working with the architect and pricing out and
Oh, good, right.
realistic.
Right.
Estimating budget.
Yeah, estimating some real numbers and
that
reality
cheap
checks
trend.
around some designs. So.
Isaac instead.
Yeah. Exactly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the mayor's appointment of the following as members of the Village of Southampton Commission on the Arts for a term expiring June 30th, 2015. Tina Andrews, Lila Carter, Laura Deviney, Mary Ann DePrisso, Sarah Moulton Foe, Steve Kazmarek, Sandra Klemick, Barbara Kushner, Cora Levitas, Sharon Lopez, David Moulton, Dawn Watson, Maria Moulton, Lillian Quistel, Don Sacco, George Semergian, Diane Shumway, Tina Silverman, and Konstantin Suhavetsky. How'd I do there, Mike? At least
I don't know.
Rich is in here.
You did better than I would.
Yeah, me too. The comments around, it's the discussion around this. Well,
I need
actually,
a
let's
motion
do
first.
it. Motion, I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion is that we haven't appointed the commission in a very long time, and we should be doing it on an annual basis. It should be part of our annual meeting, organizational meeting. So what I asked them to do is give us a list of all the current board members and of the Southampton Cultural Friends of the Southampton Cultural Center, who basically act as the board, and we put them on to the Commission of the Arts, and whose real purpose is to operate the cultural center for the Village of Southampton. So that's what we've done. Kirsten is an employee of the village who's a director there, and she's works with this board to operate the. Any other questions here?
Expires on June 30th.
Yeah, because that's our annual meeting is first week in July. So all the
This might
terms
change
will-
then.
Well, they
in
will
theory it
change,
might,
but, you know, this now has to go on to a rotating 3-year term that a third of the membership will expire every year.
Oh, yeah, right.
So she's already given me the layout for July, that 1/3 of these will be a 1-year term, second third will be a 2-year term, and the third will be a 3-year term. That will rotate going forward.
I don't think he's even here anymore, is he?
Well, he's around, but he's still supportive of that, and part of that. So, yeah.
All in favor?
I'll just throw out one comment as I'm
Yep.
looking at the list. I wonder, I mean, there's no reason not to adopt this,
Yep.
but I wonder if it's complete.
I was thinking the same thing, because I didn't see Tom Knight's
I
name
don't
on
see
there.
Tom's name on here. Maybe maybe whoever gave you this gave you this list, thought that it didn't need to include the officers. Like, I think Tom is president, or
Right.
Yeah.
something, or whatever the titles are.
Okay.
This list should include everybody.
Employee of the village.
Oh, I see.
Well, we can straighten that out in,
Let's see, man. Should he be on here?
we can straighten that out in July.
Right.
At least
Okay.
Okay.
we're getting people on here that don't have any listing at all in the village records.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Item 6, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget adjustment for fiscal year ending May 31st, 2015. I'm going to increase highway contractual by $259,582.50, increase donations $197,980, and building inspector fees $61,602.50. Got a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Discussion. What we're doing here is National Grid, on the work they had done off of Hill Street and that whole main gas line down there, they had given us a check for $197,980 to pay for the paving of that road. Okay, I've been holding it as a security deposit since they had given it to us in November, because I didn't know when they were paving. They are now starting the paving. It will be done around Memorial Day, but it's been encumbered already. So what this effectively does, it raises the budget to recognize the income for that donation. We're doing additional paving fee, drainage work there in the amount of $61,602. which I'm raising the building inspector fees to recognize that income since we're way above there. And then obviously increasing the highway contractual because when we did the original budget, none of that work was in the original budget done in January 2014.
Yeah, yeah, so it did, and the other piece is that we've talked to the contractors, make sure they're not paving at like 7 o'clock in the morning on Hill Street.
Exactly.
Trying to slow traffic down into Quogue.
That they did.
Yeah, they did one day, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Jen Davansky as a paramedic for the SVVA at an hourly rate of $25. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, this is a new paramedic for the ambulance corps. I spoke to Rich about it. He's well aware and in favor of it. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Errol Jean Scott as a grasshopper for the Parks Department at an hourly rate of $11. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of the following as traffic control officers for the 2015 season at an hourly rate of $16. Spencer Cannon, Sean Ryan, Carlos Rodriguez, Thomas Cummings Jr., Valen Gates, Alexander Sikorsky, Brian LaMonica Jr., Sarah Mole, Stephen Brown, Michael Reese, Christine Perez, and Nicholas Zlaka. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby
And
approves...
actually, Chief, when do they start? Everybody wants to know.
Start something from tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
You need them tomorrow.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of the following as seasonal police officers for 2015. Greg Keglian, Christina Hannigan, Edward McIntyre, Leonard Lynott, and Andrew Kuttner. Have a motion? Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Crystal Davis as a school crossing guard at a per diem rate of $60. Can I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of physician assistant Robert Golden as a phlebotomist for the police department at a per diem rate of $175. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the rehiring of Caitlin Lemansky as the seasonal beach manager for Cooper's Beach for the period of May 23rd, 2015 to September 7th, 2015 at a salary of $19,750 for the season. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of the following as employees at Cooper's Beach for the 2015 season. Lifeguards, David Nichols, head lifeguard, $19.75 an hour. Mike Purcell, $19 an hour. Michelle Cardo, $16 an hour. Courtney Sidor, $13.50 an hour. Patrick Nichols, $15 an hour. Garrett Benham, $16 an hour. Chad Kilmer, $16 an hour. Jesse Dabrowski, $16 an hour. Andrew Farrington, part-time, $16 an hour. And Jordan Nichols, who's in training at $9 an hour. Ticket booth, Seneca Smith, $13 an hour. Emily Gillespie, $9 an hour. Josie T. at $10 an hour. Amanda Schreiber, $9 an hour. Amanda Taylor, $9.50. Beach attendants, Lyle Smith, $10 an hour. Teddy Raffle at $9 an hour. Michael Finneborgo at $9 an hour. David Nichols at $9 an hour. Alec Dabrowski at $10 an hour. Will Raffle, part-time at $9 an hour. And Terrell O'Neill at $9 an hour, part-time. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following payments from the capital reserve account, subject to permissive referendum. Coastal Fire Systems, $5,605.30 from the Fire Equipment Reserve. DSG Distributors, $1,452.59 from the Facilities Reserve. And Jade Construction, $11,093 from the Facilities Reserve. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, discussion items, carry over from last meeting. We spoke about possibly doing a crosswalk at Dune Church. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go down there, but I did speak to Don King about it, and he doesn't have a problem with it.
Okay.
So he's okay with it, so.
Okay.
I don't know if he
All right, good.
want to go forward with it, or if you still want to take a chance and, take a run down there and look at it, but.
Yeah, I've been down there to look at it. How about,
I didn't go. I have to go down there. I'll go down
Okay.
tomorrow.
All right, surf school, we went out to bid for the operation of the surf school. Flying Point Surf School is the only one that responded. His bid offer was $2,500, same as last year. You want to accept that bid?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. A motion to accept the bid in the amount of $2,500 for Flying Point Surf School for the 2015 season.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a bike ride request for Bike Show US, May 16th, 2015. Route is in here.
This is a new bike ride?
I believe it is, yeah. No?
It's not?
It's an old one, but they didn't do it the last year. It
Okay.
didn't come through us last year.
Yeah, I remember there was an issue with the name on this.
Let's see here. So they're going, basically they're getting on Meadow Lane, and they're doing Hill Street to Halsey Neck, and Meadow Lane. They're doing this, plan on doing this Saturday.
Yep.
This
Blue
Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Jen Lane, Old Town, Wicker Pond, Cobb Road. We don't know how many riders they've got, do we? And,
Pretty tough on a Saturday.
yeah.
Anticipated 1,500.
1,500.
1,300? 1,500? Oh, forget it. That's ridiculous.
No.
But they'll be spread out, I think, supposedly, but this is what they put on the application.
Have we done this before?
I don't remember these guys a long time ago.
When they had about 25. Just joking. 1,500 cycles is a lot.
They're spread out, Nancy.
It's actually 5 different start lines.
Yeah, I saw the different start lines, but I
What
don't know
is
what
this?
that means.
Who's this? Is this benefiting something, or?
This is a Bicycle Show US. So,
I'll make a motion that we skip it.
well, let's make a motion to accept it, and then we'll deny that motion. You know, 1,300 or 1,500 riders on
Can't see
Halsey
that.
Neck,
No.
and
No way.
and on top of it, they're giving it to us 2 days before the ride.
Yeah, forget it. Forget it.
So
We'll do it your way. You want to make a motion?
I'll, yeah, let's see,
That's
just,
how you do it? I didn't realize that.
so, I'll make a motion to approve the walk-run application for Bicycle Shows US. Need a second on that?
Second?
All in favor?
No?
No.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Turn down the application. Okay. So, next time they decide they want to put 1,500 riders through the village of Southampton,
48 hours.
come and have a
notice.
conversation with the police department. And in the village of Southampton, yeah, more than 48 hours in advance. So,
All right, next item is from the Board of Trustees of the Town of Southampton on the, looking for support of the piping plover program, which the last payment we did was 2012. And the bill is for 2013, 2014, now that they're looking for that, and obviously 2015.
Yeah, the background on this is that we put this in our budget every year. Historically, Fred Havemeyer always sent an invoice over to us when we paid it. Since he's gone, nobody's invoiced us for the last couple of years. The piping program is something that we were required to obtain, and we've always just had an intermunicipal agreement, an intermunicipal agreement with the village trustees to monitor and maintain the program for us at $6,000. Sorry, the town trustees. And so this is a letter requesting back payment on this. So what we haven't done, we've confirmed we didn't make those payments, right, Steve?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions off of this?
But we budgeted it?
We did.
Okay.
Are they still coming in and fencing off areas?
Yeah.
That's part of the program.
Okay.
So they identify the nest, they fence it off, put a cover on it and monitor it, and they track it, and then there's some requirements, reporting requirements from the federal government in reference to the number of eggs, and the number of eggs hatched, and the number of surviving plovers.
Right.
Works out to about $300 an egg.
Well, actually, it's a lot higher number than that. So, yeah. So,
all right, no problem.
Okay.
All right, item 5, Nancy, Hillcrest neighborhood.
Yeah, Valerie Smith, who is a resident in the Hillcrest neighborhood, actually called me to discuss a few items. Valerie's here tonight if she wants to come up and talk, but there were a couple of items that she had pointed out to me, not only in her neighborhood, but also in the village itself. The garbage cans, she felt, were not being well taken care of, and I agree with that. And Steve, you and I had a long conversation about that and how we would approach that in the future, and I think that we'll be able to take care of that so that they don't get messy over the course of the summer and the course of the year. The other thing is Valerie's concern in her neighborhood is that there's a lot of litter there, and she took pictures of what seems to be happening over there, and with the litter accumulation, as well as cars parking on the village right-of-way. Now, we've all talked about our village right-of-way and how I believe we created a law not allowing vehicles to park near trees on the village right-of-way because it compresses the root system, and eventually we feel we will lose the trees. Is that not correct?
I think it's around construction projects.
Is it only around construction projects? Okay.
And part of the layout of that is they have to fence off around the trees and protect that. And that way they're not dropping dumpsters on their root systems and they're parking cars there every day.
But I think in
actually, once,
That's valid.
why don't you come on up here, okay? And anybody else who's going to want to speak about this, so.
I just wanted to point out,
because that's what the police had told me, but I re-looked in the codes, and it does say that you're not allowed to park anything, yeah, well, actually, it didn't say vehicle, but it said any material 30 feet from a village tree. So there are areas that cars are parking on village greens where there aren't trees, but the more you get people parking on the village green, it's going to cause a problem. Up there, there's little parking because the houses are small, and there's a lot more cars in, per house. So since we are discussing cars per house, by the way, my name is Valerie Smith. I'm at 64 Windward Way. But so it's getting crowded. Lots of cars. They have nowhere to park,
right,
which is, I guess, a problem. But if they're parking on the village green, other people are going to start parking on the village green, and it's going to start to change the neighborhood. So if we want to maintain the neighborhood, I think it's an important neighborhood to maintain. It is in the village, so it would be nice if we could keep the cars off the village green. And I've made a complaint, I've made many complaints to the code enforcement, and I've been told differently from what the codes are, which is distressing, that the code enforcer isn't aware of what the codes are. But no material is supposed to be placed 30 feet from a village tree. That's how the code reads. And it would be nice if we can get something up on just parking on the village green, period.
Well, it
Well, I mean,
might be
I-
under
I
the
think-
construction component of the village code. I don't know that, I don't have the village code in front of me, and I know the intention of that was purely around the construction of the homes, and so I have to go back and look at that. I mean, the chief is here tonight, so
Yeah, there is another
Yep.
code. Oh, you're the chief?
that's the chief. There you go.
Nice to know.
So.
I wasn't sure if you really existed.
Whoa. Oh, man.
Good to know.
Okay.
I think the one picture that really kind of tells it all, and this is over the course of the winter, no doubt, showing how person is, you have it in your book too, Bill, pulling up on the side of the village right-of-way and creating just a complete mud mess. So, you know, this is part of what I think you've been talking about.
Yes.
Cars pulling on the village right-of-way, which you call the village green,
Right,
is
uh-huh.
really the village right-of-way.
Uh-huh.
It's funny because it happens in all neighborhoods. I hate to say that, but it does, because I know even in my neighborhood, if somebody's visiting somebody and there isn't
Right.
room in their driveway, they pull in the village right-of-way. And then there are people who go out and put sticks all along the village right-of-way so that nobody will park there, because they don't want this to happen, and it happens. Because people, if it rains, people have sprinkler systems, the car pulls up, it creates a rut, they have mud then. So then they're all trying to keep it nice, and so I don't know how we can do this. I
Well,
don't.
that spot in
Yeah.
particular is actually his parking spot.
Oh.
He parks there every single day, so it's
Does he not have a driveway?
They do have a driveway, and there's actually space in it, but I don't think they want to take the time to move cars.
So it's easy.
But there's, yeah, so.
Little driveway
You know,
issue.
the one,
Again.
what we'd really have to do is we have to designate that street as no parking. That's really what we have to do, is go up and from point A to point B, no parking between these hours. And that's the way to manage that. So, you know, that has some significant impacts, because then you run into, maybe it's overnight parking. Sometimes we manage certain parts of the community by doing like a 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning, no parking, which eliminates a lot of the overnight stuff. So if you have guests that come to your house and they end up parking on the street because they didn't know ample parking in your driveway, they're not impacted by that. We've done that around a lot of the nightclubs that help out.
But this isn't on the street, it's on the green, so.
That's classified as being on the street.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
village
I see.
right of way, so
Uh-huh.
we'd designate that area as a no parking
I
area.
see, okay, that's clever.
So, because I think if we get into the code and look at the code was purely designed around construction activities when it comes to 30 feet away from the trees. And that's why I think when the code enforcement
So
said
there's
that
actually there's two codes in there. I went to the library and looked at the codes. There are two codes. One does say that with construction vehicles, and then there's another one under trees. That
See, that's what I remember,
that
the tree thing.
talks about not parking anything on the green 30 feet from a tree.
Okay.
So there is one
Yeah,
under,
okay.
I think, vehicles or parking, and
Okay.
then there's one under trees.
Okay. Well, we have to, I need to go back and look at that myself, because, yeah, okay. But,
I
you know,
remember that because Tommy was when Tommy was the head of the Parks Department, he was very concerned about soil compaction around the trees and how with vehicles constantly driving close to the trees, it compacts the soil and you're gonna lose the tree eventually.
Yeah, there's one that's being.
I mean, within a 7-year
they're actually
period, that's
driving
how
on the roots
quickly.
of the tree at this point. The soil's gone. They're on the roots on I think it's 126 Windward Way.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a meeting
So-
tomorrow morning with code enforcement on some other things, and I'm gonna ask them to go and make a ride up there. I know
That'd be great.
that some of the littering area is, some of this is in the town.
Did you see those photos?
I did, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and we've had this problem on and off over the years. One of the areas is actually in the town.
right, yes.
And what we've done in the past, when Bill Masterson was there, he's actually supplied a dumpster up there. And we've worked with the court system to do some of the community
Right.
service people to go up and do cleaning, and I know that.
I've cleaned it myself. I've walked up and down the streets up there just
Yeah.
picking up litter. Is this a forum where I can ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, great, thank you. Whose responsibility is it in the town or, I mean, within residential areas or within commercial areas? Is it the village's responsibility to pick up off the village green, or is it the homeowner or the commercial property?
Property owner.
It's property owner to pick up off the village green.
Well, it's a village right away.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, it's property owners responsible for the cleanliness of that. They're responsible for the aprons. They're responsible for sidewalks, if the sidewalks are there.
So even within the village, within the storefronts? So the storefront, the store is supposed to be cleaning in front of their storefront?
Well,
That's a good question, Valerie.
the answer is, well, the village maintains the sidewalks, and we clean all the sidewalks. So some of the storefronts are actually set back from the property line.
Mhm.
So it just kind of depends upon the commercial piece of property and the way it's laid out, so.
Because I'm finding, just in the, excuse me, Nancy, in the short time that I've been living in Southampton, that it's getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And if we are having a lot more people come here, and if they see all of the litter, they're going to think that that's how we live here. And so people are going to litter more. And if we're all not responsible for what's in front of us, whether it's in the town, I mean, in the, town proper, in the village proper, in front of whatever it is, Citarella or the Chinese restaurant, or whether it's in front of your own home, cleaning up what's in front of your own home. People are going to think that that's how we live here, and they're going to litter too. It's when in Rome. And it's just becoming, I mean, the town is far more littered than it used to be, and I find that the village is too. I think that we should really, this is important.
Well, more and more
keep it
people
clean.
are littering, I think, Valerie, than.
No, absolutely, but if
Done
we
that in
don't,
the
if we
past.
don't impose our residents
Yep.
to clean up, all of us together, we all have to be responsible for this, then people are going to think that that's how we live here, and they're going to litter.
Yep, you're right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, you and I have had that conversation too, but I also have to say, the sidewalks, most of the buildings in the village of Southampton, most of them, I will say there's some exceptions, as Mark said, the village owns to the point of where the building starts. So they really own the sidewalk. There are some exceptions. So there are some property owners who clean up, who go out and, broom off in front of their places. There are some people who actually wash the sidewalk
right. Mhm.
in front. I've seen them do it. And there are some that absolutely refuse to do it and have said, it's not my job, it's the village's job. So, I mean, to me, it's like tidy housekeeping. If you own a business and what's in front of your business is dirty, what is that saying about you and your business? So I think, and the village does go in there, and we do power wash, and we just got a new power washer to be able to really wash off the sidewalks. Because let's face it, we have dogs now throughout the village, that are going to the bathroom here, there, and everywhere. And we really have to keep our sidewalks clean. And so we have a new power washer, and you pointed out the garbage cans, and I noticed them last year, and it was really upsetting to me as well. So we will be able to keep the garbage cans cleaned, which they should be because they smell after a while. So that we are working on. I will say to you, and I told you that when we first took office, we had 35 garbage cans that were 30 years old throughout the village. 35 garbage cans in a village like this is nothing. So we ordered all new cans, and we now have 75, and we made sure, or more, and we made sure that a lot of the eating places, like the deli, have more than one, because, and they get filled. You know, some of the property owners asked for keys so that on a Sunday, if it's full, they can empty it. And some of them said, I'm not doing it, it's not my job, once again. So, you know, we are trying to keep up on it. Before we got these garbage cans, we had cigarette butts all over the village. I mean, on a Sunday morning or a Monday morning, you couldn't even believe the amount of cigarette butts. That's improved a little bit because we have a little cigarette thing in the front of each garbage can. So, you know, we are trying to stay on top of it, but I think Michael's right. There are more people littering now.
That's substantial. I mean, every morning I pick up, you know, police officers should be more vigilant. Beer cans in front of my house every morning. Good, you know, the big ones, you know, but also, Nancy, on the trash cans, so many times in the village trash cans, they're filled with household garbage.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but I have to tell you, that was one of the things, that might be, but it will be very interesting to see how they're doing it, because when the old cans had very big openings, and people would come in on a Sunday night or Monday morning before they were leaving and dump their little bag or 2 bags of household garbage in there. But one of the specifications, we designed those cans. One of the specifications from our department was an opening that was big enough to get a large soda bottle or a plate that had a cover on it into it, but not large enough to allow for household garbage. And a covering over it so that the rainwater wouldn't get in there, because they slide out those liners and they have to pick them up and dump them into their garbage truck that they have. And so everything that we did there, we did from their specifications and what they were looking for to make it right for the village. So those openings aren't big enough to allow for household garbage.
I don't know how they get them in there, but I know one in front of my wife's door is always filled with household
Well, maybe
garbage.
the lock is not working
Well, maybe.
properly, because they've had some issues with the locks, which makes me crazy, because sometimes I see the doors swinging and open. And, you know, when we all know if there's wind, that's only going to end up ripping the door off, and then we have another problem. So I know they've replaced some of the locks, so it could have been that. But I mean, we tried to definitely take care of that situation. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so, I mean, we talked to Alex Greger in town, see about, get a dumpster up there, and talk to Barbara Wilson in the court system to get some, and try to coordinate this. We've done this before, coordinating through Reverend Haverilla at the church, because that dead end there is actually his property. And so a lot of the stuff that goes on, we've had mattresses, we've done all sorts of stuff that's in there, and which is
The mattresses
reappeared.
because people are living in there?
We have had that before, and people have dumped there too. They just pull up and dump it, and they instead of taking it to the dump in Southampton town. So reach out to him, and we can try to coordinate a
That would be great.
program. And I think what the judge has done is assign them to the church, and then the church coordinates them. But we can work on that stuff.
Terrific.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the pictures and bringing this. Okay, thanks.
Last item is the 375 anniversary.
Yeah, right. So one of the things that was discussed for the anniversary, I sit on one of the committees for the 375th, was to do some sort of banners within the village. And we've kind of looked into having some banners, not a lot of them, on our lights in the village. Originally I was thinking the tall lights, but that we don't have a lot of them in the village on Main Street or Job's Lane. So then I'm out there measuring for a banner on the antique poles that are on Main Street. The ones on Job's Lane are different, so I have to figure that one out. But basically what it would be, and I met with the person from Hampton Sign, I think they're up on County Road 39. Basically, it would be a banner of like 18 by 36. We really won't have them on the street side because there isn't really enough room to put them on the street side. But I thought if we had them on the pedestrian side, it could be very attractive because people who are going down the street would see that we're having our anniversary. Because right now, people who are visiting here have not a clue. And I think it's an event, and it should be festive. And I think I feel like we should be screaming it from the rooftops that we're having a 375th anniversary this year. And I don't know of any other way to do it than to let people know. So I wanted like maybe 10 on one side of Main Street and 10 on the other side. And I'm not even sure it's 10. It won't be any more than that. And I want to take a look at Job's Lane to see where we could do them on Job's Lane, because the problem with Job's Lane is it's a narrower street, and the street lights, I don't want it on the pedestrian side because I have to see if there's even enough room to do it on any side.
Yeah.
But in their case, they don't want to be left out either. I think it helps promote business within the community. The other thing is if we did it up on Hill Street, and I've thought about that because I know the hospital did it at one point on Hill Street. There are quite a number of poles, not that are on the south side, that are those big Silver Street poles, and they're very exposed, especially near the church. I wouldn't do it in front of the church because that's the wrong thing to do, but we could do several so when people are coming in, they'll see it. When they're going out, they'll see it on the one side of the road. So I just need to see if everybody accepts that, because we need to get going on this right away.
I was concerned about the antique poles.
Right.
Because I don't know, because we're going to have the antique pole, we've got the American flag on one side.
I think that would be cool, though.
I mean, I don't.
Well, maybe you and I could go out there and take
Okay.
a look at it.
Any chance of making them like a flag so we could,
Well, I actually thought about doing flags instead. In fact, I thought about doing flags on Job's Lane. The thing is, we would have to alternate one American, one 375th.
right,
But when I was there with the person who does the signs,
right.
she met me there, and we held it up. Now, the poles are green. And we held this, this will be squared off, of course. We held this up next to the sign, and it looked great. It really looked great. And it's up high enough that, a 6'3" or 6'4" person can walk right under it. And it really looks great. So if you're walking down the street, you're going to see it off in the distance. It's a reminder that we're having our 375th. But we'll go out. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
I'm just concerned, when the
No, I
hospital, when the
understand.
hospital
That's why I'm bringing
yeah,
it
when
up.
the hospital brought, and we came in, we talked to them, they did like the major intersections and stuff.
Right. Mhm.
And that's why I was thinking maybe we could do something like that with some of the poles and do the intersection.
Well, I just wanted it a little
Yeah.
bit more exciting for the interior of our village, because I think that's our village business district. And I showed it, I happened to be out there and Garrett was there, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "We're thinking about doing," he said, "That's fabulous." Because you know him, he likes to promote in any which way that he possibly can. So, we'll go and we'll take a look at it, but I have to get moving on this, because he's take a little period of time to get him in, all right? Whatever, it's not gonna be crazy. I would never do that.
No, you have
Right.
much better taste than I do. I'd paint everything Battleship gray, but that's my that's my
And actually,
Navy in me.
I was
So,
worried about the antique poles as well, but most of them need to be repainted, and we wouldn't repaint them until after this event. And this is gonna be a one-time thing. That was a concern that someone in the village said, "Oh, well, now you're opening up, now everybody will want it." Well, they can't have it.
Well,
This is the
this is a special
375th.
occasion.
It's a big special occasion, and that's what we're gonna do. So,
Okay.
okay,
So
that's
let's,
it.
we'll meet over the weekend sometime, walk around, do that. Okay?
Yes.
All right, cool, good. Okay, let's do all the discussion items here. So we have comments from the board. Trustee Yaz has had a
vacancy.
Has a vacancy tonight. He has a confirmation, and which is a very happy for them and proud of Cole there. So, Mike.
Just real quickly, as we're entering our summer season here, the traffic has been just unbelievable. And really, there was a lady from Sag Harbor that mentioned it to me yesterday. And what she had said was that if everybody tries to be as cordial as possible with the traffic situations and let people go ahead of them or let them pull out, you're going to find that it moves a lot easier. Her problem was that she said that the summer residents come in and the summer population builds, the density builds, and those that are local get furious, and the next thing you know, you got all these traffic issues at intersections and corners and stuff. I just ask everybody, just take it easy. It's summer. Enjoy it. Certainly today was a beautiful day. So,
It was.
you know, hopefully we'll have many more just like that.
Road rage not allowed.
Road rage not allowed, right?
Great. Thanks, Mike. Nancy?
I think we've talked about a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about, but I also want to mention, they've closed the hearing on the Tuckahoe Center. And I believe that the 12th was the last day that they could receive correspondence in favor or against. So that is kind of now all in their hands. However, they are going to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. They have to present this to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. I believe that is on June, is it 3rd? It's the first Wednesday of the month, I think. We can look that up. I think that meeting is being held in Hauppauge. I know a number of people who plan on attending that. I plan on attending that. And they have to go before the Suffolk County Planning Commission, at which point the Planning Commission makes a decision as to whether or not they are approving this or not approving it based on it's a county road. And if they don't approve it, the town board has to have a majority vote, which is 4 members of the board have to vote in favor of it. And if they do, then I guess they move forward with it. Is that correct?
They get a supermajority on that, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the next step.
Right.
Past that, so.
What else has to go on? You know more about the rest of it than I do. And after that, where do they go from there?
Defer it all to Rick, but this is, I'm not even sure where they're at with what the next steps are with the town. So I know that I think it's the draft environmental impact study is where they're at right now, which involves the traffic.
Then after they get all the public comments, et cetera, then they have to do a final environmental impact statement.
Right.
But that's something they prepare.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that they do. It's not, the public input is over.
I think it's an interesting point, though, that in the middle of all of this, the developer could not say that he has a contract with King Cullen to go in there. So it may not be King Cullen. And I think, how do you present a 40,000 square foot store without a tenant and lead everybody to believe it's King Cullen, which everybody's debating how King Cullen is so much better than and cheaper than Wallbaum's. We don't even know if it's a King Cullen. So how do you put something through without a tenant? I mean, everyone has always said, this was about the supermarket. Everyone who got up said, those people who were in favor of it said, we want a supermarket. We want a new supermarket. Now we don't even know if that's the supermarket we're getting.
Has anybody contacted King Cullen?
No, I haven't contacted King Cullen.
They actually were the original owners of the property. King Cullen was. Yeah, it was their real estate, and then they sold it off to the current developers. Sold the project, so. That's years and
So
years
anyway,
ago.
it's ongoing, folks.
Right.
Stay tuned. And keep your ear to the ground because there's going to be a lot more going on with this, so.
Bill?
The only thing I'd love it if, Steve, if you and Mark could lend your voice. I really believe that, the severe winter we had has made the painted lines about as shabby as they've ever been, and they really look crummy when they're crummy. Makes the whole village look the fabulous Hamptons, and And I know they intend to do it, but I think we should prod them to do it. Obviously, it gets harder and harder to do it as you get into the season, and I'd rather just give them an extra.
Yep.
I think it comes from you too, and I've already told them that, but.
We'll prod them.
Good.
Yeah.
One other thing I
We
want.
should buy a prod. That's
Cattle prod.
You know.
One other thing I just want to mention, I met with C-Mac Sammy, who's very involved with the Southampton Center. And he was so proud to bring me over to the original entrance of the museum over there, of the Southampton Center, and how he landscaped that.
Yeah.
He put in the most beautiful boxwood plantings all around the entrances there, and they look beautiful. And his request, and he did that out of his own pocket, what his request was, could we have some drip lines in there? And I spoke with Steve.
Larry. Yeah, it's in the works.
Okay, good, because he doesn't want them to die, and they look beautiful.
Yeah.
And we thank him for that, because it's been a wonderful improvement. He's working hard on that property, so.
And then, Nancy, you've done a great job in reference to expressing the opinions of this board to the town and the Key Kong project. And the one thing I will say about that is that the town spent 13 years doing the Tuckahoe corridor study, and they voted in favor of that study. And that study said that they recommended low trip generation stores along County Road 39 in this area. And the very next project that's brought in front of the town board is a grocery store, which is an extremely high trip generator.
the highest.
The highest trip generator possible,
Makes
which
no
is in
sense.
direct contradiction to the corridor study that they approved as a master plan for the area. So it's a true conflict in what their vision for that place, the street is, and what they're looking at right now. So I know they're getting close to a vote on this, so it'll be an interesting vote.
I've thought about the whole traffic problem that we will have over there if this goes forward. And, I sat in on every one of those meetings except for one. And the traffic study that was done, or the engineer for the applicant that did the study, really missed a lot of stuff in my mind. And he missed the part that's important to the village of Southampton, because he really didn't address what would happen to all of our little side streets over in that area. But beyond that, now they're talking about, because of the trade parade in the morning, doing blinking lights at McGee Street and blinking lights at the college, and they're going to put a policeman standing in the middle of the road, and I hope to God he gets extra pay and somehow is in a metal uniform that when he gets hit by a car he doesn't get killed, because I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
And then when the cars build up either on McGee Street or over by the college, he's going to stop the traffic and he's going to let those cars go by. Now, how does that work? But also, think about that. This is a supermarket, so you get up at 7 in the morning and you say, oh God, I live in Tuckahoe, let me run over to the new supermarket that's going to be over there. But you can't get to it, because now we have a blinking light and you can't cross the highway. You have to wait for the policeman to stop it. So how do you get there? Well, maybe you have to go over to Tuckahoe and come out on North Sea and go around and then come in and come up West Prospect Street. Maybe that's the way that you get there, because you can't get there any other way. Then, let's say that's all over with and they no longer have the policeman standing out there and the lights are going, but that's a 4-minute light at both Southampton College and at McGee Street. So, if you live in Tuckahoe and you're there and you want to go to the supermarket, you're all lined up. You're all lined up. And at 4 minutes, when the 4 minutes is up, maybe 3 cars or 4 at most. So now you're sitting there 8 minutes to get through, to cross over that highway. And then you're going in McGee Street. So eastbound traffic can get into the supermarket easily because there's an entrance there. Westbound traffic has to go to the traffic light and turn in onto McGee Street and go in. So they have to wait for the left-hand turn now to let them in. So then they go in. If you're coming out and it's bumper-to-bumper traffic, do you think really somebody who's in there shopping is going to come out, merge into bumper-to-bumper traffic to sit at the light and work their way down that highway. They're not. They're going to go through our village, and that was my biggest issue. It's going to become the route of choice. Let's go to there. So now we have all these people, between 6,000 and 12,000 cars a week, supposedly that's what's going to be generated over there. So now they're all lined up on Moses. Now they're cutting down through all the little side streets. They're going down Cooper's Farm to get to the light there. They're going down White Street so that they can hang a right to hang a left onto Nugent Street. They're going down all of these little side streets, and they're backing up. And how long do you think it's going to take before they said, this is crazy. I can't get to this supermarket. I'm not going to this supermarket. I'm going to go over to Bridgehampton, or I'm going to go to Hampton Bays. It could fail. There's a really good chance it could fail if they put it through.
How do you really feel, Nancy?
I know, but I can't help it. It's
No,
just such an insane idea, totally insane idea.
And thank you for your passion on this and leadership.
You know, the other thing that I think they failed to do is the demographic collapse of the entire Hamptons, where year-round residents are moving out, and you've got these people who are coming out, and the number of service people. You know something, I don't think in my 40 years of living on Hill Street that I ever paid anybody to cut my lawn. And I had 8/10 of an acre. But I can assure you, George Soros, if you're wondering something he's never done, he's never cut a hedge or a lawn or a damn thing, you know, and it's just, you have to say, where are we going to be? Not where are we today, which is terrible, but if it grows 4 or 5% a year for 8 years, where the hell are you, you know? And they don't even seem to look forward and where you end up. And hey, listen, we have a lot of people would like a grocery store, but I think that corridor is just so treacherous, and it's, you know, the coastal evacuation route.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
I know, well, that was brought up too. And the other thing is, they talk about they're having a bank. They're having a bank. People do their banking online now. How many physical banks do we really need in a community? They don't need a bank. It's such an antiquated model that they're using over there. And that's the other thing. And, you know, if it does fail, what are we left with? And who can go in there? Can Target go in there? Can Walmart go in there? Who can go in there? To try and capture the people back to that.
Yeah.
It's just a very bad thing, the whole
No,
thing.
I disagree with you on that, now we're, we have the second public comment section from the public. We've got 3 minutes. Anybody from the public, of course?
Good evening. I'm Horace Bliss. I live at 88 Meadow Lane in Southampton Village. Can you pass these out, please?
Sure.
I'm speaking in support of Jay Deasing's point 6 to deal with certification of building inspectors' issuance of certificates of occupancy. It is my personal opinion that certain serial residential redevelopers have gamed the Southampton Village Building Code, and that the building inspector has limited enforcement authority post the issuance of a certificate of occupancy or a certificate of completion. Accordingly, I recommend that the Southampton Village Building Code be amended to require that a certification be signed at the time of the issuance of a CO or a certificate of completion. The certification clearly require that the owner of the property, the general contractor, and the architect each swear that, 1, the actual cost of the improvement for which the building permit was issued is now correct, and 2, all improvements to such property comply with the Southampton Village Building Code. If it is found that the signatories have lied, important fines plus a denial of new building permits for 2 years and/or criminal fraud charges could be initiated against the signatories. For example, a property receives a certificate of occupancy for a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house with approved pricing. by some miraculous event, the house turns out to have 4 or 5 bedrooms, 4 or 5 baths, no increased parking, and some months after the CO is issued. Somehow, the plumbing is added, but it's inside the wall, so you don't see where the bathroom comes. A casual room turns into a bedroom, or 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The CO has been issued. I believe, at least I'm told, that the building inspector has limited authority to essentially do anything post-issuance of the CO or the certificate of completion. Please note the attached photo of 240 Little Plains Road, which I've given you, which has 7 bedrooms. I believe that its parking does not comply with the Southampton Village Code. I'm told the building inspector's office may not have authority to do post-CO inspections, but the adoption of the certification process should give the building inspector authority to make post-CO issuance inquiries to make certain that the Southampton Village Code is not abused. Thank you very much.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Yes. Okay. You just change, you can come on up, so it's just.
Hi, my name is Daniel Trunk. I live at 106 Miller Road. I just want to make some comments on the plan for the garden proposal. One, the lot in question is not a blighted lot. It's a nice grassy area that the neighbors now enjoy as just a quiet, empty, open space. Two, the plan, like, I'm all in favor of community gardens. I think it's a great idea. But their particular plan sounds a bit exclusive as to who's going to use it. It sounds very specific. And to use village resources for something that specific, to me, it doesn't, you know, people from other parts of the village can't come there and use the community garden. It's a busy, narrow street, if you're familiar with it. And I don't know how they plan on getting people there, like cutting through other people's backyards or parking a bus in the street. It's an issue. And then, like you said, you mentioned setbacks. It's a small space. I don't know if you've ever, any of you have ever seen it. If you're talking like setbacks like between houses, that's going to reduce their gardening space to, you know, not really worthwhile. You know, when are they going to do the gardening? Is it going to be a noise factor for neighbors? Like I said, I'm all for community gardens. I think the whole thing should be, the dream should be made a little bit bigger and involve more of the community. And perhaps I think the property at Aldrich Lane is ideal for something like this, where you could have people park, you have a lot of land that could all be tilled up, and people could have spots to do stuff that they want to do.
They're working on plans for that place.
So I just like, why pour the resources into something that's tiny, like maybe the church can do it in their own property, or container gardening is on their own property, whereas why invest something in a small area? Like,
You have to look at it. I think it was meant to be a youth program. That's probably what it
that's
was.
great. I mean, I'd like to see a youth program like cleaning up the litter and stuff like that. I mean, that's good use for the youth too. And I think it's a great thing for youth to be gardening. I'm a gardener myself. I'm a professional gardener, and I live right there. You know, I'd be happy to help them in some projects. It's just, I don't think that, from my opinion, is really the best place for something like that.
Well,
You have to look at the size of it. I have no idea how big
I'd
it's
like to see the neighbors get involved. You know, like I wasn't informed of this, or either was my other neighbor who I know. She doesn't want a bunch of activity next to her house either.
I think we'd like to see the layout of the property and what their plans are, and some of the questions we'd ask them tonight, and they'll come back with those answers, and we'll can bring the members of the community together and have a conversation. I mean, the idea is to engage youth at a certain age to try to do some things outside of school and.
Yeah, I
things-
totally get that. I just
Yeah.
think
And learn
the
about
Aldrich
vegetables.
Lane would be a much
Oh.
better facility for that and
There's-
more inclusive.
Well, you're right, and there's some issues with that we're trying to work out with the town. There's a group of people that are trying to develop the community garden around that, and the way I looked at this property was it's an opportunity for the church, which is right over there with an after-school program that they have, kind of extend that and do something now. Taking these guys and, talking about cleaning up properties and the trash around and a cleanup program. Those are good things that could be done also. Yeah. So
Another thing I wanted to mention off that while I'm here is the bus stop. When is Southampton Village going to get a proper bus stop? At least one, if not two. Everywhere else has a bus stop.
What do you
Covered bus
mean?
stop.
Oh, a covered bus stop.
A bus
We
stop.
talked about them. I just think that those, we've talked about this too, those municipal covered bus stops.
You've never waited for the bus.
No, but what I'm saying is.
You need a
Yeah, I know.
cover for the,
But I don't
Suffolk
think
County
they're
has.
adequate enough. That's my point. I don't
Okay,
think the
well, let's
overhead
wait.
is, I don't think that the overhang is
But
wide
people are
enough.
waiting there with nothing. Well, we're thinking, well, let's make a designer bus stop.
And actually, I have waited for a bus without a.
Okay, good.
Without a bus.
Okay, so
Without
you
a
know
bus
what it's
shelter.
like.
In the rain, with an umbrella, when the
So
rain's
you know
going
what
this
it's
way.
like.
So I
All
do
right.
know.
Okay, great.
You could go to the supermarket.
Yeah, right.
All right, thank you for your time.
no, thank you.
Thank you, too.
Anyone else from the public would like to?
May I again?
Yep.
Thank you. This is
Actually, just come on up to the microphone and just identify yourself for the
Valerie
record
Smith,
again.
64 Windward Way. Thank you. This is also in regards to the garden. I
Actually,
think
your comments actually need to be made to the board here.
Oh, sorry.
And then, so people in the audience would, and then maybe there'll be an opportunity for someone to respond.
Okay, I just wanted to address her first, but
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
The garden on that spot, it is, as Dan mentioned, a very narrow street, and if there are going to be a lot of children there, because that area in itself, because of the cars parking on the village green, there's so many children in that neighborhood and a lot of pedestrians. So it's really dangerous with cars going up and down there, particularly in that spot. I think it's great to have a garden. I also am a gardener. I took that house that I bought that was, can't imagine what I found in the backyard back there, and I made a gorgeous garden. I do it all the time, lots of vegetables, so I would be happy to participate and help out with the garden wherever it is, but that spot in particular, it's so narrow, very dangerous, the roadway right there, and if there are going to be a lot of children. Plus, right next door, actually, there's a pool that's about 3 feet high, no fence around it, right next door to where they want the garden. I think we need to actually probably clean up the pool, take care of stuff like that first. And
I mean, it's my understanding that the people who are participating in this are children in that neighborhood. So it's not like they're going to be busing in kids to come
Right,
work
no.
in the neighborhood.
yeah, no, I
You know,
agree.
so
but-
they can walk from their houses over there.
No, absolutely, but just if they're gardening and maybe coming out into the road. But I think we have to address issues because actually the house with the pool, they often park on the, what do you call it besides the village green? The village right-of-way. And so if you're coming down, if you're heading west on Miller Road, and if there are children there, I mean, there's a lot of issues with the pedestrians, and thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I should, I guess maybe I
Yeah,
should.
actually, just identify yourself again for the record.
Sorry, Natasha Jeffries.
Thanks.
878 North Sea Road. I just want to say to the board that as educators, we are very capable of working with children in any type of settings and spaces. We plan to have chaperones there, a lot of adult volunteers. We have a lot of people from the school, from the community, who have already offered and volunteered to help. So having children go into the street is not really a concern of ours because we will have adults there that will be monitoring the children. As well as these are children from the community, and they do play and live and walk in this community every day. And I also want to just say that the community garden is no way, what we propose tonight is in no way meant to be exclusive. As a matter of fact, it is going to be very inclusive of all of the children, youth, and hopefully families in the neighborhood.
That's nice.
Thanks.
Hi, Peggy DiCarlo, 106 Miller Road. I live directly across the street from that lot. And my fear, and I love kids and I hear the kids playing, it's going to be noisy. I'm going to be living across the street now from this community activity, noisy activity. It's a very quiet neighborhood. That's why I love it. That space is nice. It is very small. And as I understand it, community gardens are really an urban thing where people don't have yards. Everyone on Miller, Hillcrest Terrace has a backyard. They can do gardens in their own yards. Why do I need to have a garden right across the street from my house
I think the idea.
with lots of noise and kids?
I always thought that there'd be lots of noise at the dog park, and it's actually there's not. So,
It's not kids at the dog park.
Well, it's dogs barking.
Yeah.
So, but
no one lives across the street from it.
they do actually. So they live right next to it. So, but what I would say is that they don't know what the numbers are associated with this. They don't know the layout of the format in which they want to do the property. We don't know a lot of things in reference to this, but it's an after-school program that's trying to engage kids in a very constructive way by people that are professional educators in our community that are volunteering their time to do this. So, to me, it looks like it's a win opportunity for the children of the community. And I mean, obviously, it's again, we don't know what the numbers are associated with this, and you know, I don't know the times that they would be doing this. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we don't know about this, but but we're just starting to scratch the surface. But at the 30,000 foot level, it's a pretty good idea to engage kids in teaching this. And I know they've had a lot of success with this at the intermediate school, and then things like if my kids wanted me to help grow a garden in the backyard, I'd kill everything, and they never would learn anything. But if my kids were to go and they were to do a community garden, whether it's through the church or through the school system, they'd be able to come back to our house and do stuff like that. So I mean, there's potential here.
Right.
So it's always the devil's in the detail.
But if they're having such success at the intermediate school and they're doing it on the school property, why can't they participate with the intermediate school garden or have their own garden at the school right there when they get out of school? If it's an after-school project, have it at the school.
It's a limited number of kids within the school.
Right.
It's not open up to everybody in the school. So really what they're doing is they're trying to engage the kids that are in the church community.
Right. But it's right in the middle of a neighborhood. It's right in the, I don't know, you're taking a quiet space. What?
And the playground's right in a good spot too.
Right.
There's a lot of kids that are over there. And it's a great place. And,
okay.
And
all
then,
right. We'll see.
Well, I mean,
we haven't seen it.
We haven't seen all the plans,
and it's
like
small.
I said.
If you're going to garden, it's not optimal. It's not going to yield very much. You're not going to be having a
And I think
party.
it's about the learning process.
Yeah, that's
itself.
what it is.
Okay.
And
you know what? Maybe they'll be so excited they'll go home and put a garden in their backyard.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, and then it's a teaching program.
Right, I get that. So teach it at a school. Teach it at school.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks. Anyone else from the public would like to make comment? Okay.
One quick thought. I think it might have been that one meeting that you were away, but I introduced this data that showed where the village of Southampton stood with the community preservation fund and how much we put in and who the winners were and the losers, and I think you might still have that sheet there. And
got it right here for you.
Can I just thank you, because this it showed that basically 86% of the money. We put in 122 million and got back 17 over the years. And there are other winners, like Hampton Bay's got 342% of what they got in 320. Anyhow, and thank you, Orest, for giving me this idea years ago. You did a study, and it's worsening because the prices here are just extraordinary, and yet our contributions, you just this proposal tonight where they paid $20 million for that property. What does that give to the Community Preservation Fund in one shot?
What
That's
property
easy
did they
math,
pay
isn't
20?
it? What, do they get 2 or 2.5 or?
2% was
2% of 25
like
million.
$100,000 of it is exempt for a vacant lot. There's
Do
a
they
house
get-
on that lot.
So they get 2% of the other
50,000.
19 million?
What property?
Subtract 250 from the 20 million
It was 25 million.
or 25 million, and then take
25?
2% of that.
What was it?
Anyhow,
It's a lot of money.
just a thought. I don't know if there
Oh,
are
I
any
see. I know what you thought you meant the
homes in the
community
Hillcrest
preservation fund bonds.
area that ever come on the market, but maybe if the Community Preservation Fund doesn't want to spend, $5 million on a half an acre, they might buy a house or two and tear them down and make little parks for the people up there so they have enough room to plant a real garden and
Or
whatever.
maybe the new,
And park the cars and maybe have a dumpster
or maybe the
for the
new,
garbage. Get everything.
or maybe the new law that they're trying to, what is it, is it 2%? The
Thanks,
community
Mike.
is 3%, and now they want to charge another 2% for workforce housing.
Right.
So now when you buy a house out here, 5% right off the bat goes immediately to preserve land and buy land to build workforce housing. So maybe they could take some of that money and restore some of the houses in there for workforce housing if somebody wants to
can't.
sell their house. Why
Well,
can't
I
they?
mean, not with Community Preservation Fund
No,
money.
but I'm saying with the new workforce housing,
I don't know if that'll ever pass. So, let's see.
I think they should take a portion of the community preservation. Like, make that 2 and make the other 1, so that they're not now charging people 5% when they buy a house.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, 5%.
Yeah, well, that's
Huge.
That's the problem, is that it's,
And I'm all for creating workforce housing,
Yeah.
believe me. I think they should have a fund for it, because quite honestly, by buying up all of this land, there's no land for anybody to,
Right.
that's affordable to live here. Because we know the less land that there is, the more valuable it becomes. So by preserving all of this land, they've just shot everybody's values right through the roof. So how can you afford to live here?
that's why we have a lot of traffic coming into this
That's
area,
correct.
so.
That's
yeah.
correct.
The last
Okay.
of the Mohicans. We are.
Okay. So, that being said, I will make a motion to close the public hearing to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters.
Second?
Second, that's a great idea.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay.